Good evening, dear companions. Tonight, we shall embark upon a serene and unhurried exploration through the venerable realms of Hellenic mythology and the tranquil annals of legendary antiquity. We invite you to soften your illumination, nestle comfortably beneath your chosen covering, and permit the clamor and exigencies of the day to gently recede into the background. At the outermost occidental boundary of the terrestrial sphere, precisely where the celestial orb of the sun descends to embrace the earth at each day's conclusion, flourishes a botanical marvel utterly distinct from any other. One might readily envision it, standing in solitary grandeur upon an elevated ridge, its boughs laden with succulent fruit that radiates an effulgence akin to captured solar luminescence. Yet, this magnificent arboreal specimen is not without companionship. Enveloped around its formidable trunk, with the unyielding patience of ancient stone, reposes Ladon, a formidable draconic entity whose 100 ocular organs never succumb to slumber, and whose very respiration has served as an enduring chronometer for countless centuries. Indeed, Ladon does not embody the ferocious, avaricious, and hoard-amassing serpentine creature frequently depicted in subsequent narratives. Rather, he represents an essence more subdued, more profoundly eternal. His epidermal scales gleam with a muted, bronze-like luster, rendered smooth and burnished by the ceaseless attrition of innumerable years of prevailing winds and inclement atmospheric conditions. Each of his 100 eyes articulates independently, orchestrating a soft, mesmerizing visual cadence, reminiscent of stellar bodies materializing and vanishing in a languid choreographic display across the nocturnal firmament. Some of these watchful orbs survey the distant horizon. Others meticulously observe the golden fruit suspended above, while still others appear to introspectively gaze, as if engaged in contemplation of concepts too profound for the limited comprehension of mortal beings. The distinguished tree under his guardianship belongs to Hera, the sovereign queen of the Olympian deities, and its lustrous golden apples are reputed to bestow the gift of perpetual existence upon those fortunate enough to partake of them. However, one will not encounter Ladon restlessly patrolling his domain or exhaling incandescent flames at potential trespassers. Instead, he has assimilated into a rhythmic pattern as ancient and fundamental as the earth itself. His colossal physique ascends and descends with each measured respiration, emitting a sound analogous to the distant, rhythmic surge of ocean tides. When the atmospheric currents stir through the verdant foliage overhead, he occasionally elevates his head with a slight inclination, as if attending to the whispered confidences of an old and cherished confidant. What cogitations occupy the mind of a dragon during the protracted, silent expanses of eternity? Perhaps he recollects the momentous day when Hera first escorted him to this hallowed locale, recalling how she addressed him not as a mere servitor, but as a revered sentinel entrusted with the safeguarding of something immeasurably precious. The resplendent golden apples were not merely botanical produce. They symbolized hope itself, the profound assurance that certain elements within this terrestrial existence possessed the capacity for everlasting persistence. And Ladon, with his ancient wisdom, comprehended that his designated function was not to exhibit ferocity or inspire dread, but rather to embody presence, constancy, and an unyielding steadfastness. The verdant grounds encompassing the tree are meticulously cultivated by the Hesperides, the enchanting evening nymphs who serenade as they diligently perform their duties. Their melodious voices intertwine harmoniously with the resonant sound of Ladon's breathing, collectively fashioning a captivating lullaby that has reverberated throughout this sacred precinct since the very dawn of time. They navigate through the garden with the graceful fluidity of dancers, meticulously irrigating roots, judiciously pruning branches, and assiduously collecting fallen leaves. Occasionally, they pause in their labors to gently caress Ladon's warm, scaly integument, and he responds with a contented, deep rumble, a sound evocative of distant thunder reverberating on a balmy summer evening. One might naturally ponder whether Ladon ever experiences a sense of isolation during his perpetual vigil. However, the sensation of loneliness necessitates a distinct awareness of the passage of temporal units. For Ladon, the flow of time operates on an entirely different continuum. Each successive day seamlessly merges into the next, much like water seeking its natural equilibrium. The sun ascends, casting elongated golden shafts of light through the apple-laden branches. It then climbs to its zenith, thoroughly warming his bronze scales until they become almost too scorching to the touch. Subsequently, it descends, imbuing the firmament with a palette of roseate and amber hues that perfectly complement the shimmering fruit under his protection. And throughout this ceaseless cycle, Ladon maintains his watch with unswerving patience, his presence as intrinsically reliable as the inexorable progression of the seasons. The golden apples themselves appear to emanate their own subtle, gentle luminosity, particularly during the hours immediately preceding daybreak. If one were afforded the opportunity to observe them at close proximity, it would become apparent that they are not perfectly spherical. Unlike conventional fruit, they possess a slight elongation, and their skin exhibits no imperfections, no discernible indications of age or deterioration. When agitated by the wind, they produce a soft, melodic chime as they brush against one another, a sound reminiscent of distant, dulcet bells. Ladon has been privy to this ethereal music for such an extensive duration that it has become an intrinsic component of his very heartbeat, an inseparable element of his respiration, and an integral part of his profound dreams. Indeed, even draconic entities are susceptible to the phenomenon of dreaming. In the depths of his slumber, Ladon occasionally experiences prophetic visions of heroes who are destined to seek out these coveted apples. These are not the violent brigands depicted in certain sensationalized narratives, but rather individuals propelled by profound affection, by desperate urgency, and by the fundamentally human imperative to cling to that which is most profoundly cherished. He perceives their visages prior to their actual arrival, recognizing their distinctive footsteps upon the ancient pathway that ultimately leads to his hallowed garden. And although his sacred duty is to safeguard the apples, he experiences a sensation akin to empathy for these earnest seekers, understanding their profound yearning for permanence in a world where all things are ultimately subject to evanescence. The most celebrated of these distinguished visitors was Heracles, the preeminent hero whose prodigious physical might was rivaled only by the profound disquietude of his inner spirit. When Heracles finally reached the garden, his form dust-laden from his arduous odyssey, Ladon evinced no surprise. He had, in fact, been anticipating this precise moment for an immeasurable span of years. The hero approached with deliberate slowness, not with the overt bravado one might anticipate, but with the meticulous reverence of an individual who comprehends the sanctity of consecrated locales. Heracles did not engage Ladon in combat, notwithstanding the assertions of certain embellished accounts. Instead, he remained beneath the venerable tree for a period of 3 days and 3 nights, conversing softly with the ancient dragon about the arduousness of his labors, the weight of his regrets, and his fervent hope that by successfully executing these seemingly insurmountable tasks, he might attain a measure of profound inner tranquility. Ladon listened attentively with his 100 eyes, and within those myriad orbs, Heracles perceived not the unthinking voracity of a savage beast, but rather the profound weariness of an immortal spirit, burdened by an eternal obligation. On the 3rd night, as the moon ascended to its zenith, Ladon performed an unprecedented act. He simultaneously closed all 100 of his eyes and surrendered to a profound, complete slumber, thereby permitting Heracles to acquire the apples he so desperately required. This was neither a capitulation nor an act of deception. It was an act of profound recognition, one sentinel acknowledging the inherent worth of another, one eternal mandate honoring the profound significance of another. When Heracles departed, he gently rested his hand upon Ladon's colossal head, a gesture of profound gratitude that the venerable dragon carries with him to this very day. However, that momentous event transpired eons ago. Heracles successfully completed his labors and ultimately discovered his much-sought-after peace. The resplendent golden apples were duly reinstated to their rightful arboreal abode, and Ladon unhesitatingly resumed his eternal vigil. The world beyond the confines of the garden underwent transformations both subtle and dramatic. Mighty empires ascended and subsequently crumbled. Novel deities garnered new adherents, while ancient ones gradually receded into mere whispers of memory, and mortal beings devised increasingly sophisticated methods to quantify time, distance, and intrinsic value. None of these external vicissitudes impinged upon the serene garden, where Ladon steadfastly maintains his watch. Here, the immutable rhythm persists, the delicate filtration of dawn light through shimmering golden leaves, the gentle vocalizations of the Hesperides as they meticulously tend their perpetual garden, the soft murmur of the wind rustling through immortal branches, and ceaselessly, the steady respiration of the dragon who safeguards it all, his 100 eyes mirroring the ever-shifting light. His very presence an enduring pledge that certain elements persist not through brute force or cunning ingenuity, but through the straightforward decision to remain steadfastly devoted to that which holds the most profound significance. Should one be afforded the extraordinary opportunity to visit Ladon today, one would discover him precisely as he has always been, intricately coiled around the base of the magnificent golden tree, his scales radiating warmth from the sun's embrace, his eyes observing with an unshakable, patient sagacity. He might elevate his colossal head ever so slightly as one approaches, not as an overt threat, but as a silent salutation, recognizing within the visitor another searching soul, seeking something enduring in a world characterized by ceaseless flux. And if one were to maintain absolute quietude, absolute stillness, one might discern within his rhythmic breathing the resonant echo of all narratives yet to be recounted. All the unassuming guardians who meticulously watch over those cherished aspects of existence that we are utterly unwilling to relinquish. What other steadfast observers might we unearth within the tranquil recesses of ancient Greece? What other spirits discovered profound meaning not within the grandeur of epic quests, but within the consistent cadences of daily devotion? long before formidable heroes such as Heracles traversed the terrestrial sphere, prior to the erection of magnificent temples upon elevated hilltops and the gleaming of polished marble columns beneath the Mediterranean sun, the earliest inhabitants of Greece unearthed a revelation that would irrevocably alter the course of human civilization. They ascertained how to compel the earth to yield its hidden bounty, not through the arduous processes of mining or hunting, but through the patient, symbiotic partnership forged between human hands and dormant seeds. This, then, is the compelling narrative of those often overlooked pioneers, the inaugural farmers who ingeniously transformed wild grasses into luxuriant golden wheat, who meticulously cultivated scattered nomadic tribes into cohesive, settled communities, and who ultimately instilled in humanity an unwavering trust in the promise of tomorrow's harvest. Envision the topographical features of ancient Greece as they appeared 8 millennia ago. Undulant hills cloaked in wild herbs that diffused their aromatic essence into the air with every gentle breeze. Venerable oak groves where acorns descended in profusion each autumn, and expansive meadows interspersed with wild barley and wheat that flourished wherever the wind had dispersed the ancestral seeds. The populace inhabiting these lands at that epoch existed as nomadic wanderers, pursuing migratory game animals throughout the changing seasons, diligently gathering wild berries and nuts, and perpetually existing at the mercy of nature's capricious and unpredictable inclinations. However, within a verdant valley situated not far from the site that would eventually become the renowned city of Athens, a woman whose name has been irretrievably lost to the annals of history made a singular observation that fundamentally revolutionized everything. She meticulously noted that wherever her tribe had established temporary encampments and subsequently departed, leaving behind the detritus of their repasts, scattered grains, various fruit seeds, and discarded vegetable scraps, new botanical growth invariably emerged during the subsequent season. This phenomenon was not attributable to sorcery, although it must have initially appeared profoundly magical. It was, rather, the Earth's inherent method of responding to human collaboration, marking the nascent stages of agriculture's ancient dialogue between deliberate intention and burgeoning hope. Her appellation might conceivably have been Melissa, a term signifying bee in the ancient Greek lexicon, for she exhibited a profound affinity for the assiduous tasks of gathering and systematic storage, much like her industrious namesake insects. Each morning, she would embark upon a journey through the regions where her people had encamped in preceding years, meticulously scrutinizing the self-propagating plants that thrived there. She diligently learned to identify the robust stalks that yielded the most abundant grain, the resilient vines that bore the most exquisitely sweet fruit, and the subterranean roots that accumulated the greatest quantity of sustenance to sustain them through the arduous, lean winter months. Ensuring sustenance during the harsh, lean winter months. Melissa's profound insight into cultivation unfolded not as a dramatic, instantaneous revelation, nor as an abrupt, lightning-strike moment of genius. Rather, her understanding blossomed organically from countless minute observations, meticulous, quiet experiments, and an unwavering, patient vigilance. She initiated the practice of deliberately dispersing seeds in specific locales where she anticipated her return. With careful diligence, she meticulously cleared small sections of earth, painstakingly removing intrusive weeds and obstructive stones to afford her selected botanical specimens ample space for flourishing. Furthermore, she cultivated an acute sensitivity, learning to decipher the nuanced indicators that signaled the optimal readiness of the soil for planting, the precise moment young seedlings required hydration, and when the grain had reached its peak maturity, signaling time for harvest. Her fellow tribal members observed these nascent agricultural endeavors with a blend of intrigued curiosity and profound skepticism. They pondered the rationale behind dedicating such extensive effort to nurturing flora in a fixed location when the untamed environment already proffered every requisite for survival. What logic dictated remaining tethered to a singular valley when true liberty entailed pursuing the migratory game herds across vast, unfettered landscapes? Yet, Melissa possessed a foresight that eluded their immediate comprehension. She had discerned a nascent potential for unparalleled plenty, for enduring safety, and for the emergence of settlements capable of expanding far beyond the demographic limits sustainable by traditional hunting and gathering practices. Her inaugural significant triumph materialized with emmer wheat, an archaic cereal crop indigenous to and flourishing in a wild state across the entire territory. In stark contrast to contemporary wheat varieties, which yield plump, readily gathered kernels, emmer presented a formidable and tenacious character. Its individual grains adhered tenaciously within their protective husks, necessitating meticulous and laborious processing before they could be rendered palatable. Nevertheless, this ancient grain exhibited remarkable resilience, capable of enduring and even thriving in impoverished soil conditions and through unpredictable climatic fluctuations. Melissa diligently deciphered its intrinsic growth patterns, ascertaining its predilection for elevated, well-drained hillsides and a strategic autumn sowing. From each successive harvest, she assiduously preserved the most robust and promising seeds, thereby progressively cultivating more vigorous and bountiful strains over time. The arduous nature of this pioneering agricultural endeavor proved far more demanding than anyone had initially conceived. The act of preparing the land for cultivation entailed interminable hours of strenuous labor, utilizing rudimentary implements to extract stubborn stumps, relocate cumbersome stones, and fracture the obdurate, hard-packed earth. Sowing seeds, in turn, demanded an exacting vigilance concerning meteorological phenomena, the specific characteristics of the terrain, and a finely tuned temporal precision that invariably distinguished between a season of copious yield and one of disheartening scarcity. Weeding constituted a perpetual daily chore throughout the active growing season, a deliberate, methodical undertaking aimed at safeguarding the chosen crops while systematically eradicating their botanical rivals. Finally, the harvest presented its own formidable set of obstacles. The laborious manual cutting of grain, its subsequent threshing to meticulously disjoin seeds from their stalks, and the culminating process of winnowing to purify the kernels by separating them from lightweight chaff and assorted detritus. However, the eventual fruits of their labor, once realized, proved nothing short of phenomenal. For the inaugural instance within collective human recollection, Melissa's community possessed an abundance of sustenance, a quantity far exceeding their consumption capacity for a single agricultural cycle. They meticulously acquired the skill of preserving grain within hermetically sealed pottery vessels, thus safeguarding it assiduously from the detrimental effects of moisture and the depredations of vermin. Furthermore, they unearthed innovative methods by which specific foodstuffs could be desiccated, fermented, or otherwise processed in manners that significantly prolonged their utility well beyond the traditional growing period. Consequently, winter, historically a period synonymous with acute want and pervasive apprehension, was reconfigured into simply another segment of the annual calendar, to be confronted with satiated stomachs and tranquil spirits. As intelligence concerning these remarkable achievements propagated throughout the wider region, various other tribal communities commenced their own exploratory forays into the realm of plant cultivation. Each distinct group judiciously customized the foundational tenets of agriculture to align with their particular ecological surroundings and specific exigencies. Along littoral zones, for instance, inhabitants mastered the art of nurturing vegetables adept at flourishing within sandy substrata and under the influence of saline atmospheric conditions. In rugged, elevated territories, they ingeniously engineered terraced fields, thereby effectively harnessing precipitous gradients and the intermittent bounty of seasonal precipitation. Proximity to flowing waterways and meandering streams spurred the development of sophisticated irrigation networks, channeling life-giving moisture to tracts of land hitherto considered barren and agriculturally unviable. The societal transformations that unfolded in conjunction with the adoption of agriculture proved no less significant or far-reaching than the concurrent technological advancements. Once human populations were liberated from the imperative of ceaseless migration in pursuit of sustenance, they could dedicate considerable time and substantial energy to the construction of enduring habitations. Ephemeral shelters were superseded by robust, permanent houses, which swiftly evolved into the focal points of domestic existence and secure repositories for an increasing array of accumulated personal effects. Consequently, settlements burgeoned around the most fertile and productive agricultural lands, fostering the development of communities sufficiently expansive to sustain a diverse cadre of specialized artisans, skilled potters meticulously crafting durable storage vessels, ingenious toolmakers forging superior plows and sharp sickles, and adept weavers fashioning textiles for attire from resilient plant fibers. Offspring nurtured within these nascent agrarian societies cultivated a fundamentally distinct rapport with the concepts of temporality and spatiality compared to their migratory forebears. They assimilated the deliberate, patient cadences inherent in an agricultural existence. The serene, hushed winter periods when vital seeds reposed in a state of dormancy within the frost-bound earth. The vibrant anticipation accompanying spring sowing. The vigilant, often anxious observation throughout the summer as nascent crops progressed steadily towards full maturation, and the profoundly satisfying, albeit physically draining, culmination of the harvest season. These individuals progressively acquired what could accurately be termed an intrinsic agrarian sagacity, an exceptionally profound comprehension of meteorological configurations, diverse soil compositions, prevalent plant maladies, and the myriad other intricate variables that ultimately dictated prosperity or adversity in the demanding pursuit of farming. Concomitantly, spiritual observances underwent a parallel evolution, intricately linked with the progression of agricultural methods. As humanity endeavored to both comprehend and exert a degree of influence over the enigmatic powers that dictated the fate of their cultivated plants, they commenced perceiving a sacred essence within the cyclical procession of the seasons. This perception spurred the institution of elaborate rituals specifically designed to guarantee propitious meteorological conditions, rich and productive soil, and ultimately, copious harvests. Demeter, revered as the potent goddess of grain and the very embodiment of agriculture, ascended to a preeminent position among the deities of the Greek pantheon. She symbolized not merely the earth's generous abundance, but also the hallowed symbiosis between diligent human endeavor and the formidable inherent forces of nature. The implements employed by these pioneering agriculturists, though unassuming in their construction, proved remarkably efficacious. Sturdy wooden plows, harnessed to and propelled by the sheer strength of oxen, fractured and aerated the earth with a significantly greater efficiency than could be achieved through manual tools alone. Sharp bronze sickles facilitated a more rapid and exhaustive collection of crops during the harvest season. Robust clay vessels offered an impermeable and dependable means of safeguarding precious seeds and harvested grain. Furthermore, stone querns meticulously ground grain into fine flour, a fundamental ingredient that could then be skillfully baked into bread, a culinary staple characterized by its portability, inherent nutritional value, and extended shelf life. Each of these groundbreaking innovations represented the cumulative wisdom of countless generations, a testament to ceaseless experimentation and meticulous refinement as tillers of the earth progressively devised superior methodologies for interacting with the soil. Yet, arguably the most crucial instrument forged by these foundational agriculturists was the very virtue of patience itself. In stark divergence from hunting, an activity capable of yielding instant outcomes for individuals possessing both acumen and serendipitous fortune, farming necessitated an unwavering conviction in the principle of deferred recompense. Seeds meticulously sown in the vernal season might remain ungathered until the autumnal equinox. Fruit-bearing arboreal specimens, once planted, could conceivably withhold their bounty for a span of multiple years. Enhancements made to the soil could require numerous decades to manifest their complete and beneficial impact. This profound shift towards long-term strategic contemplation fundamentally reshaped not merely the sustenance practices of human populations, but also their entire philosophical perception of their role within the global ecosystem. By the epoch when classical Greek civilization attained its zenith, the progeny of these primordial cultivators had established a sophisticated agricultural framework capable of sustaining populations numbering in the millions. They had meticulously perfected advanced crop rotation methodologies, which judiciously preserved and enhanced soil fertility over successive planting cycles. Concurrently, they initiated selective breeding programs, systematically improving both cultivated flora and domesticated fauna. Furthermore, they forged extensive trade networks, facilitating the efficient distribution of their abundant surplus foodstuffs throughout the expansive Mediterranean sphere. Yet, the bedrock upon which this entire edifice rested remained the painstaking observations and diligent experiments performed by pioneers such as Melissa, individuals who perceived inherent promise in untamed botanical species, who demonstrated an unwavering readiness to commit their precious time and vital energies to endeavors with indeterminate outcomes, and who harbored an implicit confidence that the earth would reciprocate their dedicated stewardship with an outpouring of plenty. Even in the contemporary era, marked by highly mechanized agricultural practices and sophisticated scientific plant breeding, the fundamental symbiotic connection between the cultivator and the land endures without alteration. An individual must persistently monitor meteorological conditions, meticulously nurture the soil, and execute innumerable minor judgments that ultimately dictate the prosperity or demise of cultivated crops. The lineal successors of those inaugural Greek agriculturists persist in their labors across fields globally, upholding an uninterrupted legacy of collaborative stewardship with the earth. A tradition that commenced when a visionary woman named Melissa first discerned that seemingly scattered seeds possess the latent capacity to yield bounteous harvests. Beyond the transformative agricultural revolution, what other subtle yet profound innovations fundamentally molded the quotidian existence of the ancient Greeks, which skilled craftspeople and dedicated artisans, through their unwavering commitment and meticulous labor, meticulously constructed the very bedrock of their civilization. In the majestic shadow of a Crocorinth, precisely where the nascent morning light first bathes the bustling workshops arrayed along the venerable city thoroughfares, Nicias commences his daily regimen, mirroring the practices of his father and his paternal grandfather before him. The pottery wheel revolves gracefully beneath his practiced, attentive hands, as moist clay gradually ascends, assuming forms destined to transport fine wines across the azure expanse of the Mediterranean, to contain precious olive oil for the illumination of sacred temple lamps, and to safeguard essential grain stores throughout yet another long winter. Yet, as Nicias diligently executes his craft, his mind is not preoccupied with the intricacies of distant trade routes or the exigencies of commerce. Instead, he is acutely attuned to the clay itself, perceiving its inherent readiness, sensing the precise instant it is prepared to embody its ultimate intended purpose. Corinthian ceramic artistry enjoys widespread renown across the entirety of the ancient world, not primarily for its monumental scale or imposing magnificence, but rather for its impeccable proportions, its exquisitely delicate painted embellishments, and the profound manner in which it appears to encapsulate an intrinsic essence of Hellenic existence. Every individual artifact originates from clay meticulously excavated from particular hillsides encircling the city, a geological bounty that has been imbued with character by the ceaseless embrace of Mediterranean rains and the warming caress of its sun for untold centuries. The master potters possess an encyclopedic familiarity with each distinct geological deposit, capable of discerning precisely which elevated terrain yields clay that, upon firing, achieves a rich, warm terracotta hue, and conversely, which verdant valley supplies the exceptionally fine, pliable material ideally suited for intricate, detailed pictorial artistry. The painstaking labor commences even prior to the break of dawn, while the atmosphere remains refreshingly cool and profoundly tranquil. Nicias, accompanied by his diligent apprentices, undertakes the crucial initial phase of clay preparation, vigorously kneading it with a rhythmic motion akin to that employed for bread dough. This meticulous action serves to expel any latent air bubbles which, if unaddressed, could tragically result in fissures or fractures during the subsequent high-temperature firing. This essential procedure, technically termed wedging, demands both unwavering endurance and considerable physical might. The raw clay necessitates continuous manipulation until it achieves an impeccable uniformity, becoming exquisitely pliable and optimally responsive to the potter's sensitive touch, neither excessively yielding nor unduly rigid. A truly accomplished master potter possesses the innate ability to ascertain the clay's ideal readiness purely through tactile sensation, the nuanced manner in which it gracefully cedes to applied pressure, and the delicate warmth that progressively emanates as it is expertly worked. At the potter's wheel, Nicias enters a state akin to profound meditation, His feet meticulously operate the pedal, maintaining the rhythmic rotation of the substantial stone disc, while his hands deftly coax the malleable clay upwards, shaping it into time-honored forms. These include amphorae for storing and transporting wine, craters designed for the communal mixing of beverages at intellectual symposiums, modest cups for everyday sustenance, and elaborate ceremonial vessels destined for sacred religious festivals. Each distinct shape has undergone countless iterations of refinement over generations, with proportions continuously adjusted and readjusted until they embody that quintessential equilibrium between aesthetic allure and practical utility, a hallmark of authentic Greek artistic endeavor. The act of throwing clay appears deceptively effortless when executed by a master craftsman, yet it demands years of dedicated practice to acquire true proficiency. Applying excessive pressure invariably leads to the inward collapse of the vessel's walls, whereas insufficient force results in thick, ungainly forms. The true secret lies in discerning the clay's inherent responses, comprehending its natural inclination for movement, and collaborating with its intrinsic properties rather than struggling against them. Nicias frequently closes his eyes during this process, relying solely on his tactile sense to guide the yielding clay into its predestined configuration. Once the fundamental contours of the vessel are established, the genuine artistic expression commences. While the clay retains a slight dampness, but possesses sufficient firmness for careful handling, the specialized decorative painters assume their role. These individuals are artisans of exceptional skill in their own right. These are artists who have devoted decades to mastering the intricate craft of depicting narrative scenes. Their repertoire encompasses vivid portrayals of myths and legends, vignettes of daily life, dynamic athletic competitions, or solemn religious ceremonies. They meticulously apply their artistry using brushes fashioned from fine animal hair, employing slip, a refined liquid clay, whose consistency has been precisely calibrated to ensure a smooth, unhindered flow without undesirable running. The painting methodologies employed are characterized by a precision that rivals any other specialized craft. The initial stage involves sketching a faint outline with a delicate brush. Subsequently, the primary colors are meticulously filled in, typically featuring dark, often black, figures starkly contrasted against the inherent red-orange hue of the fired clay. In later periods, this technique evolved to showcase red figures against a deep black background. The painters must execute their work with both celerity and exactitude, as errors are not easily rectified. Each brushstroke must convey unwavering confidence and certainty, cumulatively contributing to designs that will be permanently fused onto the pottery during the firing process. The kiln firing represents arguably the most suspenseful phase in the entire pottery-making continuum. All the preceding weeks of painstaking labor, encompassing the preparation of the clay, the intricate shaping of vessels, the precise application of decorative elements, and the patient waiting for everything to dry thoroughly, culminate in the critical 3 days and nights, during which the pottery resides within chambers heated by meticulously controlled fires. These fires must be maintained at an absolutely precise temperature. Excessive heat will inevitably cause the pieces to warp or crack, while insufficient heat will prevent them from developing the rich, vibrant colors and the durable, hard finish that render Corinthian pottery so highly esteemed. Nicias, through extensive experience, has cultivated an intuitive understanding of the kiln's fire, akin to a farmer's innate ability to interpret weather patterns. The specific coloration of the flames serves as a reliable indicator of the internal temperature. The distinct sounds produced by the burning wood offer clues regarding the residual moisture content within the fuel. Furthermore, the subtle aroma emanating from the smoke reveals whether the fire is burning cleanly or if adjustments are warranted. During these intense firing periods, he snatches brief intervals of sleep, rousing himself every few hours to inspect the kilns, replenish the wood supply, fine-tune the airflow, and implement the myriad minor corrections that ultimately determine the outcome between resounding success and unfortunate failure. The pottery workshop functions as a nexus of tranquil concentration, periodically punctuated by bursts of focused activity. During the throwing sessions, all attention converges upon the wheels, with the only discernible sounds being the gentle whirring of the spinning clay and the soft splash of water employed to keep both hands and clay adequately moist. As painting commences, the atmosphere becomes even more subdued, reflecting the intense focus of the artists as they meticulously craft scenes destined to be admired for centuries. However, during the firing phase, the workshop pulsates with a palpable nervous energy as everyone anxiously awaits the revelation of whether their collective efforts have withstood the fiery crucible. When the kilns finally cool and the moment arrives for their careful unloading, a complex blend of exhilaration and apprehension invariably pervades the air. Some pieces emerge precisely as envisioned, their colors radiating brilliance, their forms flawlessly executed, and their intricate decorations remarkably crisp and clear. Others exhibit the subtle, charming variations inherent in natural firing processes. Slight deviations in color, unique patterns formed within the glaze, or minor imperfections that paradoxically imbue each piece with an even greater sense of individuality and preciousness. Occasionally, despite every meticulous precaution, losses do occur. Pieces that have fractured due to thermal stress, decorations that failed to fire correctly, or forms that warped beyond any practical utility. Nevertheless, failure is an intrinsic component of the learning trajectory within any artisanal craft, and pottery, above all other virtues, instills profound patience. Nikias has learned to embrace both triumphs and setbacks as invaluable instructors, meticulously analyzing each outcome to ascertain what factors contributed to success or error, how existing techniques might be further refined, and how the enigmatic alchemy of clay, fire, and human ingenuity might be more fully mastered. He preserves broken pieces not as symbols of past failures, but rather as instructive textbooks, scrutinizing them to comprehend the nuanced behavior of clay under diverse conditions. The completed pottery departs the workshop, embarking upon its true existence in the wider world. Wine amphorae, destined for voyages on merchant ships, transport not merely wine but also news, local gossip, and cultural influences to distant ports. Ceremonial vessels assume their sacred positions within temples, cradling offerings to the deities, and participating in rituals that forge enduring connections between communities and their spiritual heritage. Daily use pottery populates homes across the Mediterranean basin, transforming mundane activities such as eating and drinking into more aesthetically pleasing experiences, more deeply integrated with the artistic traditions that fundamentally define Greek civilization. Yet, for Nikias and his esteemed colleagues, the most significant audience remains local, the neighbors who frequent their workshop to acquire oil lamps for their dwellings water jugs for their wells, and cups for their dining tables. These discerning customers possess an intimate familiarity with pottery, capable of appreciating the subtle distinctions that elevate superior craftsmanship above merely adequate production. They understand that a meticulously crafted pot will provide faithful service for many decades, that aesthetically pleasing decorations enhance the pleasure of daily chores, and that supporting local artisans contributes to the preservation of the unique traditions that define their community. As evening descends and the final potter's wheel ceases its rotation, Nicias meticulously cleans his tools with the same exacting care he applies to shaping clay. Each implement possesses its specific function, its prescribed method of maintenance, and its integral role within the intricate process that transmutes raw earth into enduring art. Tomorrow, he will recommence his work with fresh clay, encountering new challenges and discovering renewed opportunities to engage in the ancient, profound dialogue between human creativity and the inherent properties of natural materials. What other artisans discovered profound meaning in this patient metamorphosis of raw materials into objects of both beauty and utility? Just as the Corinthian potters skillfully fashioned clay into vessels that facilitated the dissemination of civilization across the seas, the shipwrights of Athens meticulously shaped wood into the vessels themselves. In the expansive naval yards of Piraeus, where the resonant clang of hammering reverberates from dawn until dusk, Alexandros gently traces his hands along a piece of seasoned oak timber, discerning the subtle intricacies of its grain that will reveal its optimal application. Certain pieces are earmarked for keels, forming the foundational backbone of ships destined to transport merchants and warriors across the wine-dark sea. Other sections will be meticulously curved into ribs, imparting both form and structural integrity to the vessels. Still others will be artfully carved into the elegant arcs of prows, designed to cleave through waves with the effortless grace of dolphins. The shipbuilding process commences not within the bustling harbors, but deep within the forests, where trees are carefully selected and felled in accordance with generations of accumulated knowledge. Oak is prized for its immense strength, pine for its relative lightness, and cedar for its inherent resistance to rot and insect infestations. Each distinct type of wood possesses its appropriate application, its ideal duration for seasoning, and its particular set of challenges and advantages. Alexandros learned early in his apprenticeship that comprehending wood is akin to understanding individuals. Each piece possesses its own distinct character, its unique way of reacting to stress, and its particular preferences regarding how it best responds to being worked. The seasoning of timber represents perhaps the most demanding aspect of shipbuilding in terms of patience. Freshly cut wood contains an excessive amount of moisture to be utilized immediately. It must be meticulously stacked with ample spaces to facilitate air circulation, protected from rain, but not entirely shielded from all weather elements, and then left to dry for periods ranging from several months to even several years. Unseasoned or green, wood is prone to warping or cracking as it dries, thereby nullifying months of diligent preparatory work. Conversely, properly seasoned timber achieves a stable, predictable state, ready to assume its integral place in constructions that must endure the relentless stresses of wind and waves. The sophisticated design of ships necessitates a delicate balance between often competing demands, a challenge that would test the ingenuity of any engineer. They must possess sufficient strength to withstand ferocious storms, yet remain light enough to navigate efficiently through water. They must be capacious enough to transport substantial cargo, yet compact enough to be deftly maneuvered within constricted harbors. They must be adequately watertight to repel the sea, yet sufficiently flexible to flex harmoniously with waves without succumbing to breakage. Each design decision inevitably impacts all others, creating intricate puzzles that shipwrights resolve through a synthesis of extensive experience, intuitive insight, and meticulous observation of what demonstrably works. Alexandros specializes in the construction of merchant vessels, the indefatigable workhorses of Mediterranean commerce that convey a vast array of goods, from grain to wine, pottery to olive oil, between geographically distant ports. These ships may lack the dramatic spectacle of warships, with their formidable bronze rams and multiple banks of oars, but they embody something equally, if not more, crucial: the patient, enduring commercial relationships that intricately bind the Greek world together. A meticulously constructed merchant ship might faithfully serve for several decades, undertaking hundreds of voyages, transporting thousands of tons of vital cargo, and thereby sustaining the livelihoods of countless traders, sailors, and all those whose existence depends on the arteries of seaborne commerce. The thriving communities along the coast, whose very existence often hinged upon the ceaseless flow of seaborne commerce, understood the profound importance of every vessel built. The intricate construction process of these indispensable ships adhered to time-honored rhythms, traditions as ancient and enduring as naval architecture itself. It commenced with the solemn laying of the keel, a singular monumental timber destined to serve as the ship's fundamental backbone and structural anchor. This crucial component demanded absolute rectitude, meticulously hewn from the grandest and most impeccable tree obtainable, then meticulously seasoned over many years until it achieved an unparalleled stability and formidable strength. The auspicious keel-laying ceremony invariably drew the presence of the ship's prospective proprietor, frequently accompanied by devout libations offered to Poseidon, the formidable god of the sea, alongside fervent supplications for secure and prosperous voyages. From the precise moment this foundational piece was securely positioned, the vessel's inherent character and its ultimate destiny upon the waves were irrevocably cast. With painstaking precision, plank by plank and frame by frame, the skeletal framework of the nascent vessel gradually materialized. Every individual rib, a testament to meticulous craftsmanship, necessitated careful shaping to sculpt the elegant hydrodynamic curves that would ultimately dictate the ship's interaction with and passage through the water. A design too acutely pointed, while potentially cleaving through ocean swells with swiftness, would inevitably compromise its capacity for carrying substantial payloads. Conversely, a form excessively blunt, though offering commendable stability, would invariably result in a sluggish pace. The sagacious master shipwright, the artisan at the helm of this complex creation, rendered these critical determinations, drawing upon the ship's specific operational purpose, the distinct preferences articulated by its owner, and crucially, an accumulated wealth of empirical knowledge garnered over countless years of observing how diverse hull configurations performed across a myriad of maritime conditions. The planking process represented the zenith of the shipwright's artistry, demanding the most exceptional skill and unwavering precision. Each individual board had to be meticulously tailored and seamlessly integrated with its adjacent counterparts, culminating in the formation of a ship's hull that was simultaneously endowed with formidable structural integrity and an impenetrable watertight seal. These vital planks were secured into position using robust bronze nails and carefully crafted wooden dowels, a testament to ancient engineering principles. Following attachment, the entire assembly was meticulously sealed with a tenacious mixture of tar and oakum, the latter being a fibrous material salvaged from discarded ropes, possessing the remarkable property of expanding significantly when exposed to moisture. This ingenious combination created joints that, rather than weakening, paradoxically became even more compressed and watertight when immersed in the very element they were designed to repel. Such venerable technology, though seemingly rudimentary, proved astonishingly efficacious. Expertly constructed wooden vessels, when afforded diligent and consistent maintenance, possessed the remarkable capability of retaining their watertightness for many decades. Within the cavernous expanse of the completed hull, meticulous consideration was invariably directed towards optimizing both the efficient management of cargo and the essential comfort and well-being of the embarked crew. Merchant vessels, designed for the arduous task of transporting goods across vast distances, necessitated expansive, unencumbered holds where valuable commodities could be stowed with absolute security and retrieved with utmost ease. Furthermore, they required robust and meticulously sealed freshwater storage systems, vital to prevent contamination during extended voyages where potable water was a precious, non-renewable resource. Beyond logistical needs, provisions for human occupancy were paramount. Designated sleeping quarters for the weary crew, cooking facilities engineered with stringent safety protocols to avert the ever-present danger of fire at sea, and ample organized storage for the sustenance and specialized equipment indispensable for weeks or even months spent navigating the open ocean. Each minute detail, from the largest beam to the smallest locker, demanded scrupulous foresight and precise planning. For any oversight or flaw unearthed subsequent to the vessel's launch would inevitably incur exorbitant financial penalties and present formidable challenges in rectification. The ceremonial launching of a newly completed vessel invariably constituted a momentous occasion for festive celebration, yet it simultaneously represented a profound period of heightened anxiety for every individual intimately involved in its protracted construction. The culmination of countless months of painstaking labor, the myriad strategic decisions concerning choice materials and intricate construction methodologies, alongside the fervent prayers and profound aspirations meticulously invested in the ambitious undertaking, all converged upon that singular, pivotal instant when the ship first embraced the embrace of the water. Pressing questions loomed. Would it achieve the designated flotation level with perfect equilibrium? Would its handling characteristics prove responsive and agile? And most critically, would it ultimately vindicate the substantial commitment of both invaluable time and precious resources? While the vast majority of these magnificent creations performed precisely as anticipated, embodying their designed specifications, there invariably arose minor, unforeseen nuances, necessitating slight recalibrations and offering invaluable insights and lessons to be meticulously applied to subsequent shipbuilding endeavors. Once triumphantly launched, the vessel embarked upon its authentic and demanding professional career. However, Alexandros's profound connection with his creation by no means concluded at this juncture. Wooden ships, by their very nature, necessitated an unceasing regimen of meticulous maintenance. Their hulls perpetually demanded systematic cleaning and reapplication of protective seals. The complex network of rigging, continuously exposed to the elements and immense stresses, invariably required timely replacement. Furthermore, the relentless fury of tempestuous storms frequently inflicted damage that mandated prompt and expert repair. Consequently, these seafaring craft routinely gravitated back to the very yards of their genesis, bringing with them a rich tapestry of narratives from distant, exotic ports, tangible evidence affirming the efficacy of their original construction methodologies, and invaluable suggestions gleaned from practical experience for potential enhancements in forthcoming vessels. These returning ships, much akin to mature offspring returning to the familial hearth, bore news of the expansive global arena, yet remained intrinsically bound to their foundational origins and the skilled hands that first brought them to life. The shipyard itself functioned as a vibrant, self-contained community, intricately nested within the broader, bustling, urban tapestry of Piraeus. Within its industrious confines, skilled shipwrights collaborated seamlessly with an array of other specialized artisans, sailmakers meticulously crafting the expansive canvas necessary for propulsion, rope makers twisting robust cords for rigging and mooring, bronze smiths forging durable nails and bespoke fittings, and master carvers meticulously shaping the ornate, often symbolic, decorative figures that elegantly adorned a ship's prow. Each distinct craft provided essential support to the others, fostering a sophisticated and interdependent network of specialized skills, a vital ecosystem that fundamentally underpinned and made feasible the entire maritime economy. In this dynamic milieu, young men matured, not merely acquiring proficiency in their designated individual trades, but simultaneously absorbing a comprehensive understanding of all multifaceted aspects encompassing both ship construction and its ongoing maintenance. The indisputable economic preeminence of maritime shipping conferred upon shipwrights a position of considerable esteem and profound respect within the structured strata of Athenian society. Their unparalleled skills were not merely valued, but deemed absolutely indispensable to the enduring prosperity and sustained growth of the city. Their monumental work was conspicuously discernible in every bustling harbor, and their exceptional craftsmanship faced rigorous, real-world validation each and every time their magnificent vessels confronted the formidable challenges presented by unpredictable winds and towering waves. Yet, much like all genuine artisans, their most profound sense of fulfillment stemmed not primarily from outward accolades or societal recognition, but rather from the intrinsic gratification inherent in the work itself. The tactile satisfaction derived from perfectly aligned and seamlessly interlocked joints, the aesthetic pleasure in witnessing graceful, elegant curves materialize beneath their practiced hands, and the comforting certitude that their meticulously fashioned creations would safely convey both precious human lives and vital commodities across treacherous, expansive waters. As the twilight hues began to deepen and the day's arduous labor gradually receded, Alexandros, the venerable master shipwright, habitually traversed the bustling expanse of the shipyard, meticulously inspecting projects that resided in manifold stages of their intricate completion. In one corner, a newly laid keel, foundational to a future behemoth, signaled the nascent beginnings of a vessel whose ultimate realization lay many months distant. Conversely, across the bustling yard, Another magnificent craft approached its final metamorphosis, patiently awaiting merely its concluding application of protective tar and the intricate installation of its complex rigging system. Each individual ship, in its tangible form, encapsulated hundreds of critical decisions, thousands of precise cuts and meticulously fashioned fittings, and countless hours of dedicated, patient toil. Yet beyond this immense material and temporal investment, these vessels embodied a profounder significance. They symbolized vital conduits fostering connections between geographically distant locales, presenting unparalleled opportunities for vibrant trade and enriching cultural exchange, and ultimately representing the enduring human impetus to explore and embark upon grand adventures, a primordial yearning that has perpetually beckoned humanity towards the boundless expanse of the sea. Beyond the maritime realm, one might ponder which other diligent craftspeople lent their patient and profound skills to forge the very infrastructure that so robustly sustained the grandeur of Greek civilization. Far aloft upon the rugged, majestic slopes of Mount Parnassus, a domain where solitary eagles majestically wheeled in perpetual circles, and the very air itself thinned to a crisp, ethereal quality. The resonant cadence of chisel-striking stone had reverberated with unwavering consistency for untold centuries. Yet, these were not the dramatic, often celebrated sonic declarations of sculptors meticulously carving artistic masterpieces or visionary architects orchestrating the raising of magnificent temples. Rather, they were the steadfast, methodical, and rhythmic taps emanating from dedicated stone cutters, painstakingly preparing the colossal foundation blocks, the sturdy wall stones, and the myriad, precisely hewn pieces of masonry, each an indispensable component that collectively rendered possible the awe-inspiring architectural marvels for which ancient Greece justly earned its enduring renown. Demetrios, with a practiced gesture, meticulously wiped the accumulating perspiration from his furrowed brow, his gaze then intently scrutinizing the massive stone block he had diligently been shaping since the first faint blush of dawn. He carefully verified its precise dimensions against the weathered wooden template that customarily hung from his sturdy leather belt, a silent testament to exacting standards. The renowned oracle at Delphi, a beacon of prophecy, perennially attracted throngs of devout pilgrims journeying from every corner of the then-known world. Yet remarkably few of these transient visitors paused to contemplate the very stones beneath their sandals as they ascended the hallowed sacred way, steadily progressing towards the resplendent temple dedicated to Apollo. Each and every one of those foundational blocks had been painstakingly hewn by human hand, painstakingly sculpted to integrate with absolute exactitude alongside its contiguous counterparts, and ultimately finished to astonishingly tight tolerances, often measured in mere fractions of an inch. The exacting labor of the stonemason, while undeniably necessitating considerable physical strength and robust endurance, fundamentally demanded far more. An extraordinary degree of patience, an unwavering commitment to precision, and critically, an intimate, almost intuitive comprehension of the stone material itself. This encompassed a deep understanding of its inherent fracture patterns, its susceptibility to the relentless forces of weathering, and the nuanced ways in which myriad types of stone reacted to a diverse array of specialized tools and intricate techniques. Demetrios, a custodian of this ancient wisdom, had meticulously acquired his formidable craft from his esteemed uncle, who, in turn, had inherited this profound expertise from his own grandfather, thereby perpetuating an unbroken, venerable chain of knowledge. This lineage stretched back through the mists of time to the very first enterprising Greeks, who astutely recognized the potential of local limestone, discovering its inherent suitability for quarrying and subsequent shaping into robust foundational building blocks. Remarkably, the fundamental techniques employed in this ancient craft had undergone minimal alteration across the passage of numerous generations. The essential implements remained largely unchanged. Sturdy bronze chisels and weighty iron hammers, simple yet effective wooden wedges, and robust rope hoists continued to be the primary instruments of their trade. However, distinct from the static nature of the tools, the profound comprehension of the stone itself, encompassing the subtle critical judgments regarding its inherent grain, its varying degrees of hardness, and the detection of often imperceptible flaws that could either ensure the successful integrity or presage the catastrophic failure of a massive block. This invaluable, nuanced knowledge progressively deepened and refined itself with each successive year of accumulated practical experience. The arduous quarrying process commenced long before the first tool touched the rock face, beginning instead with an astute reading of the geological stone formation. This involved a deep, almost intuitive understanding of the primordial processes by which the rock had been deposited and solidified in ancient time seas, discerning the precise trajectories of natural fracture lines, and identifying which specific strata would consistently yield the most superior building material. Demetrios, with his seasoned eye, possessed the remarkable ability to traverse a quarry and unerringly indicate locations where the stone would prove impeccably suited for intricate, detailed carving, pinpointing other zones where its quality was adequate solely for more rudimentary, rough-hewn work, and crucially, identifying areas where concealed, inherent flaws rendered the material entirely unsuitable for any structural construction. This invaluable practical wisdom was not theoretically acquired, but profoundly forged through the physical handling of countless thousands of blocks, through keenly observing their behavior under immense stress, and by meticulously learning to recognize the subtle, predictive signs that foretold either successful integration or inevitable structural failure. The sophisticated methods for extracting colossal blocks from the living, unyielding rock face often appeared almost miraculous to the uninitiated observer. This intricate procedure involved the meticulous drilling of precisely spaced holes, strategically positioned along the predetermined lines where the stone was intended to fracture. Subsequently, robust wooden wedges were carefully inserted into these apertures and then thoroughly saturated with water. As the wood absorbed the moisture, it gradually expanded, generating an immense, inexorable pressure that expertly cleaved the stone along its anticipated, predictable trajectories. This ancient, yet remarkably effective process was characterized by its deliberate pace but absolute certainty, consistently yielding clean, precise breaks with negligible material wastage. Conversely, any attempt to accelerate this delicate work or to extract blocks with undue haste invariably culminated in unintended fractures, thereby irrevocably spoiling what would otherwise have been invaluable construction material. Once successfully extracted from the quarry, each raw block necessitated meticulous shaping to attain its precise, final dimensions, a task accomplished using venerable hand tools that had undergone remarkably little evolution since the distant Bronze Age. The initial, more vigorous phase of rough shaping was executed with the forceful application of heavy hammers and broad chisels, skillfully dislodging substantial fragments of stone and establishing the fundamental rudimentary form. Following this, the truly painstaking and careful work commenced with an array of smaller, more delicate implements, gradually refining the surfaces, assiduously verifying the exact dimensions, and painstakingly testing the precise fit against its prospective neighboring blocks. The culminating phase of final finishing, a testament to unwavering dedication, could frequently consume many days of patient, concentrated labor, meticulously erasing all vestiges of tool marks, creating surfaces of impeccable smoothness, and ultimately achieving a degree of precision so absolute that the blocks could interlock with seamless perfection, entirely obviating the need for mortar. The diverse array of architectural undertakings inherently mandated distinct and specialized approaches to the craft of stonework. Foundation blocks, for instance, were primarily engineered for paramount strength, compelling them to sustain immense structural loads without succumbing to fracture or undesirable settling. Consequently, these crucial components were frequently permitted to retain a rougher, less refined texture on sides that would remain concealed from public view, while all meticulous attention was rigorously concentrated upon ensuring that their load-bearing surfaces were rendered impeccably flat and absolutely true. Wall blocks, conversely, necessitated scrupulous care dedicated to their exterior faces, which would be prominently displayed within the completed edifice, though their internal surfaces could be finished with a comparatively lesser degree of exacting precision. Of all the stone elements, column drums unequivocally demanded the most exquisite and precise workmanship, given that even the slightest irregularity or deviation would inevitably become dramatically amplified and conspicuously apparent as the majestic column progressively ascended skyward. The transportation of finished blocks from quarry to construction site poses considerable logistical hurdles. Some of these colossal lithic components weigh several tons and must be moved over rugged mountain paths, employing techniques that demand a blend of enduring patience and innovative resourcefulness rather than brute force alone. Wooden rollers, intricate rope systems, and meticulously synchronized efforts among teams of workers enable these massive stones to be conveyed safely over distances that might initially appear insurmountable. The undertaking is inherently perilous. A dislodged block can tragically crush anyone in its trajectory. Yet experienced crews cultivate a precise rhythm and an effective communication system that significantly mitigates potential hazards. At the construction site, the stonecutters operate in seamless collaboration with the master builders, executing minute alterations to ensure impeccable structural integration. Even with the most scrupulous measuring and precise templating, small modifications are frequently necessitated. A block might require a slight trimming to compensate for subtle discrepancies in the blocks beneath it, or its surfaces might demand further planar refinement to guarantee proper contact. This on-site fitting procedure necessitates all the proficiencies of quarry work, coupled with the additional complexity of navigating the dynamic environment shared with parallel artisan endeavors. Carpenters installing intricate roof structures, sculptors carving elaborate decorative elements, and painters preparing surfaces for vibrant embellishment. The implements wielded by the stonecutter are uncomplicated, yet profoundly efficacious. Each tool is meticulously designed for particular facets of the work. Heavy sledgehammers for the initial reduction of bulk, medium hammers for overall contouring, small hammers for intricate sculptural articulation, chisels of a spectrum of blade dimensions for diverse lithic severance techniques, wooden wedges for controlled splitting, and both bronze and iron tools tailored for different types of cutting. Measuring devices encompass rulers, squares, plumb lines, and levels, all crucial for guaranteeing metrological exactitude. Every single tool must be meticulously cared for, maintained with optimal sharpness, and kept in impeccable repair, as blunted or compromised implements render precise work utterly impossible. The physical demands inherent in stone cutting are prodigious. The labor requires robust physical prowess, unwavering endurance, and an unyielding capacity for mental focus, all sustained in defiance of physical exhaustion, environmental extremes of scorching heat and biting cold, and the incessant cacophony of percussive impacts. Demetrios's hands are indelibly marked by countless nicks and abrasions, his back stooped by successive decades spent laboring over ponderous masses, and his oral sensitivity diminished by an enduring symphony of metallic strikes. Yet, he also possesses an attribute that transcends quantification, an innate, almost clairvoyant comprehension of stone, the unique ability to envision within unhewn quarry extractions the architectural masterpieces awaiting their final form. Perhaps arguably the most astonishing attribute of ancient stonework is its enduring resilience. Buildings constructed by masterful craftsmen like Demetrios have persisted across millennia, transcending the ephemeral existences of their originating cultures, still standing resolutely while dynasties ascend and recede around them. This remarkable endurance is no mere fortuity. It stems directly from unwavering meticulousness applied to each minute facet of the entire construction process. From the judicious provenance of raw stone to the exacting lapidary articulation, and to the ingenious methods of interlocking masonry units, the stone cutters of Delphi engage their skills not merely on grand temples and public edifices, but also on the essential foundational utilities that ensure the seamless operation of the sacred precinct. This comprehensive scope includes buttressing ramparts that staunchly hold back mountainside soil, sophisticated drainage systems that divert pluvial runoff with efficacy away from buildings, carefully crafted steps and pathways that allow pilgrims to traverse the arduous gradient securely, robust repositories for votive offerings and essential provisions, and comfortable housing for priests and workers. All of this construction demands the same scrupulous attention to materials and techniques as the famous temples, even though much of it remains largely unheeded by the transient visitor. The inherent cyclical cadence of construction endeavors dictates that stonecutters frequently have months each winter to engage in alternative pursuits. Some journey to different construction sites, migrating to align with the active building periods across the vast Mediterranean basin. Others utilize this interlude for excavating raw stone and amassing reserves of essential stock for the subsequent year's undertakings. Still others dedicate their time to cultivating novice practitioners, thereby transmitting the invaluable corpus of expertise and practical proficiencies that guarantee the perpetuation of their venerable profession. These periods of reduced activity are as critically important as the bustling construction season, providing ample time for instrument upkeep, strategic forethought, and profound contemplation that invariably leads to refinements in methodological application. The profound spiritual resonance of Delphi imbues an additional layer of profound import into the stonecutter's work. They possess a deep understanding that their craft contributes to something far transcending the purely utilitarian act of edifice erection. They are fashioning hallowed precincts conducive to numinous communion, where the pronouncements of the Pythia will reverberate through countless epochs, and where devotees will discover profound spiritual enlightenment and rejuvenation. This consecrated objective permeates even the most quotidian operations with profound significance, making the patient work of cutting and fitting stone feel like an act of meditative devotion, a tangible votive presentation to the gods who watch over this holy place. As Demetrios concludes his daily exertions and commences the meticulous cleansing of his implements, he gazes upward at the nascent temple form ascending majestically before his eyes. Each block in those formidable walls was meticulously handled by artisans akin to himself, was expertly sculpted by instruments mirroring his own, and was integrated into its destined position through the assiduous deployment of proficiencies honed across successive lineages. Tomorrow he will embark upon the shaping of another block, and then another, thereby bequeathing his individual contribution to an architectural undertaking destined to endure for centuries beyond his mortal span. What other steadfast artisans discovered profound purpose in endeavors whose tangible manifestations would far transcend the ephemeral existence of their originators? In the profound gloom preceding dawn in ancient Athens, while the majority of the urban populace remains in slumber, Thalia ignites the nascent flames within her bakery's immense, stone-hewn hearth. The vital work of nourishing an entire populace commences long before the first stirrings of morning repasts. In the quiet time when bakers metamorphose elemental components, flour, water, salt, and the enigmatic vivifying essence of spontaneous fermentation into the fundamental staff of existence. Her hands move with the assured dexterity born of 3 decades of dedicated practice, meticulously constructing the fire that will thoroughly heat the oven's thick walls, preparing for another day of the venerable transmutation that converts raw cereal into vital provisions. The bakery is strategically situated at the nexus of 2 bustling thoroughfares, optimally located to cater to the quotidian requirements of the local community. During the daylight hours, it will be brimming with patrons, animated discussions, and the vivacious tumult of commercial exchange. But in these early hours, it is solely the domain of Thalia and the serene, methodical cadences of her vocation. She inspects the dough, which has undergone its nocturnal ascension, ascertaining their optimal state through a delicate tactile evaluation that imparts an exhaustive understanding about timing, ambient temperature, and the mysterious life force that underpins the very existence of leavened bread. Bread making commences with a profound comprehension of the cereal itself. The triticum, hordeum, and various other cultivated gramineous plants that farmers, much like the pioneering Hellenic cultivators, mastered the art of husbandry millennia in the past. Different grains yield distinct gustatory profiles and tactile consistencies, and adept boulangères possess the acumen to blend them for desired outcomes. Wheat flour creates the ethereal, voluminous loaves frequently reserved for celebratory repasts. Barley produces a more compact, nutritionally robust bread that satiates the appetite and confers sustained vitality. Mixed grain breads offer nuanced palatal experiences and the pragmatic benefit of utilizing readily accessible cereals at economical valuations. The pulverization of grain into milled powder is a task that forges an intrinsic link between each individual loaf and the perennial agrarian rhythm that begins in remote agricultural expanses. Thalia cultivates enduring associations with various proximate grinding establishments, understanding implicitly that the intrinsic excellence of the flour dictates the ultimate caliber of the baked product. She can discern through tactile and olfactory perception whether the meal is newly processed, meticulously milled, and devoid of perfidious impurities that dishonest purveyors occasionally incorporate to inflate their pecuniary gains. Good flour feels silken to the touch and subtly tepid, exudes a fragrant, unblemished aroma, and yields a pliant, manageable dough that, upon baking, transforms into bread of superior palatability and desirable consistency. Water, the subsequent indispensable component, could appear deceptively uncomplicated, but bakers universally acknowledge that varied aqueous origins yield divergent outcomes. The dissolved solute profile, thermal state, and unblemished clarity of water all profoundly influence the rheological properties of the dough, the proliferation dynamics of the leavening agent, and the ultimate gustatory attributes of the baked loaf. Thalia procures her vital liquid from a specific wellspring, widely acclaimed for its unwavering excellence, and she has learned to calibrate her methodologies in response to ambient thermal fluctuations and shifting mineralogical concentrations across the seasons. In winter, cold water necessitates extended mechanical amalgamation to facilitate optimal gluten matrix formation. Conversely, in summer, she sometimes incorporates frozen water to mitigate excessive thermal elevation of the dough during its manipulation. Salt fulfills a multitude of critical functions in bread making. Transcending its role as a mere sapid agent, it fortifies the intricate glutinous framework, assisting the dough in maintaining its structural integrity throughout the processes of proofing and thermal transformation. It meticulously modulates the metabolic dynamism of the yeast, thereby averting an unduly rapid expansion of the loaf and the consequent emergence of an inferior crumb consistency. Furthermore, it functions as an intrinsic antiseptic, thereby prolonging the bread's optimal viability. The precise quantity of sodium chloride necessitates meticulous calibration. Too little, and the bread will be insipid and architecturally fragile. Too much, and it will suppress the fermentative vigor of the yeast and impart an unpalatably saline gustation. But the most enigmatic component is yeast itself, the microscopic, vivacious entity responsible for transmuting ponderous dough into an ethereal, aerated loaf. In Thalia's era, prior to the advent of industrially cultivated leavening agents, bakers nurtured ancestral levains, concoctions of milled grain and aqueous medium that ensnare ambient wild yeasts and furnish the requisite fermentative impetus for each day's bread. These starters demand unremitting diurnal vigilance, consistent nourishment with newly milled flour and pure water, and scrupulous thermal regulation to sustain the vitality and metabolic vigor of the microbial cultures. A robust starter can persist for extended durations, even across multiple decades, frequently bequeathed through successive familial lines as an invaluable heirloom. The intricate process of mixing and meticulously kneading the dough truly reveals the baker's consummate skill. Insufficient blending ensures the ingredients fail to properly integrate, invariably leading to bread characterized by an undesirable texture and an inconsistent crumb. Conversely, an excessive amount of mixing risks compromising the delicate gluten structure, resulting in loaves that are unpleasantly dense and heavy. Thalia, with years of dedicated practice, has honed her ability to discern the dough's readiness purely by tactile sensation. A perfectly developed dough exhibits a smooth, pliable, and elastic quality, responding predictably and cooperatively to the shaping and stretching motions. Furthermore, this essential kneading phase also serves to incorporate vital air into the dough, thereby establishing the foundational structure that the yeast will subsequently expand during the crucial rising period. The rising or fermentation stage presents perhaps the most demanding test of a baker's patience and intuition. The artisan must meticulously cultivate the ideal ambient conditions, a temperature sufficiently warm to activate the yeast's metabolic processes, yet not so elevated as to accelerate fermentation beyond a controlled pace, and a humidity level adequate to prevent the dough's surface from developing an undesirable crust, but not so high as to render the dough excessively sticky and unmanageable. Thalia has cultivated a profound, almost innate understanding of these delicate environmental balances, enabling her to precisely adjust rising durations and temperatures. Her decisions are informed by a keen awareness of prevailing weather patterns, subtle seasonal shifts, and the unique rheological characteristics inherent in each individual batch of dough. The artful shaping of loaves demands a harmonious fusion of precise technical skill and an inherent artistic sensibility. Diverse forms are crafted to fulfill distinct functional objectives. Elongated loaves are designed to offer a maximal surface area of crust, catering to those discerning palates that savor the robust, chewy texture of a perfectly baked exterior. Conversely, spherical loaves are known to cook with superior uniformity and retain their freshness for extended periods. Small, individually proportioned rolls provide a convenient option for patrons desiring single servings. Each specific shape necessitates its own specialized handling methodologies, precise rising intervals, and tailored baking adjustments. Thalia takes immense personal pride in crafting loaves that are not merely nourishing and exquisitely flavorful, but also inherently captivating to the eye. Recognizing the profound truth that people appreciate their food visually long before they taste it. The final rising, or proofing, after the loaves have been skillfully shaped, holds paramount importance for achieving the desired internal texture in the finished bread. Loaves that are insufficiently risen will inevitably yield a product that is disappointingly dense and heavy. Conversely, bread that has been allowed to overrise risks collapsing dramatically during the baking process, resulting in an irregular texture and a diminished overall volume. Thalia employs a variety of empirical tests to ascertain the dough's readiness, gently prodding its surface to observe the rapidity of its elastic rebound, carefully scrutinizing the exterior for telltale indications of proper fermentation, and meticulously timing the rise based on her extensive experience with analogous conditions. This refined judgment is undeniably the product of countless years of dedicated practice and an unwavering, scrupulous attention to the outcomes of each bake. The act of baking itself necessitates a profound comprehension of the unique operational characteristics of the massive stone oven that stands as the undeniable heart of the bakery. These formidable ovens are traditionally brought to temperature by igniting fires directly within the baking chamber, after which the smoldering coals and residual ash are meticulously removed. Once the substantial stone walls have absorbed a sufficient quantity of heat to expertly bake multiple successive batches of bread, The latent, radiant heat cooks the bread with a slow, deliberate, and remarkably even penetration. This process is precisely what imbues traditional hearthbreads with their signature thick, satisfyingly chewy crusts and their exquisitely moist, tender interiors. The intricate management of the oven's temperature and the efficient, strategic loading of the loaves are skills that demand years of dedicated application and profound experience to truly master. The precise sequence of baking operations is meticulously orchestrated, following a carefully conceived plan designed to extract the maximum utility from the oven's diminishing heat. Initially, the phase of most intense heat is judiciously allocated for robust, hearty breads that require powerful thermal energy to achieve their characteristic profound crust development. As the internal temperature of the oven gradually subsides, more delicate culinary creations are introduced, such as exquisitely sweet breads and intricate pastries, items that would undoubtedly scorch and spoil in the initial, fiercely high heat. Finally, the lingering, gentle warmth within the cooling oven is ingeniously repurposed for a range of ancillary tasks, including the careful drying of aromatic herbs, the gentle warming of prepared foodstuffs, or other activities that benefit from a mild, sustained thermal environment. In a truly well-managed bakery, every vestige of heat is utilized, ensuring nothing is ever squandered. The profound social function of the neighborhood bakery extends far beyond the mere provision of daily bread. It organically evolves into a vital communal gathering point, a cherished space where neighbors converge to exchange the latest news, engage in spirited discussions about local happenings, and assiduously cultivate the intricate social connections that serve to bind communities into a cohesive whole. Customers forge enduring relationships with their bakers, learning over time to precisely time their visits to coincide with the emergence of their preferred bread varieties from the oven. They place an implicit trust in the baker's discerning judgment regarding quality and freshness, and come to rely upon the bakery as an indispensable and dependable source for their daily sustenance. Thalia possesses an intimate understanding of her diverse customers' individual preferences, meticulously adjusting her production schedule to align with these specific demands. She is keenly aware that Marcos the potter favors a dense, hearty barley bread, providing the sustained energy required for his arduous, lengthy days at the potter's wheel. In contrast, Helena the weaver prefers light, airy wheat rolls, designed not to induce drowsiness during her intricate and detailed work. Younger patrons consistently gravitate towards sweet breads enriched with honey and nuts, while her elderly clientele typically desires softer loaves, which are more easily masticated. This deeply personal knowledge empowers her to serve her community with a far greater efficacy and responsiveness than any expansive, impersonal commercial operation could ever hope to achieve. The critical economic importance of bread within ancient society meant that bakers like Thalia occupied positions of substantial and weighty responsibility. Bread was not perceived as a mere luxury item, but rather as an absolute necessity, serving as the fundamental cornerstone of nutrition for the vast majority of the populace. During periods marked by grain scarcity or unpredictable price fluctuations, bakers faced the precarious task of delicately balancing their customers' essential needs with the imperative of their own commercial survival. They frequently extended credit to their most trusted customers during challenging economic times, operating under the profound understanding that the preservation of vital community relationships held far greater significance than the maximization of immediate short-term profits. The inherent seasonal fluctuations in both the availability and the intrinsic quality of grain consistently introduce an element of dynamism and challenge into the baker's daily work. Newly harvested grains arrive with distinct fresh flavors and often exhibit enhanced baking qualities, yet they simultaneously necessitate nuanced adjustments in handling techniques. Older, stored grain, conversely, may demand different hydration levels or modified mixing durations to achieve optimal results. Furthermore, prevailing weather conditions significantly impact not only the raw materials themselves, but also the entire baking environment. Humid days, for instance, mandate specific adjustments in rising times, while periods of cold weather might necessitate alterations in the strategic management of the oven. A truly skilled baker learns to harmoniously adapt to these natural variations, rather than attempting to rigidly contend against them. Religious and deeply ingrained cultural traditions also exerted a profound and pervasive influence upon the baker's craft. Specific feast days mandated the creation of special breads, often characterized by traditional shapes and unique ingredients, meticulously prepared to honor ancient customs. Wedding celebrations called for elaborately decorated loaves, intricately designed to symbolize prosperity, fertility, and the joyous union of two families. Funeral gatherings, in contrast, required simple, substantial breads, appropriately understated for solemn occasions of mourning and remembrance. Thalia assiduously maintained a comprehensive repertoire of recipes and specialized techniques for all these ceremonial requirements, understanding implicitly that her multifaceted role encompassed not only the provision of daily sustenance, but also the vital preservation of cherished cultural heritage. As the morning hours gracefully elapsed and the familiar faces of regular customers began to appear, seeking their daily bread, Thalia experienced the deep, resonant satisfaction that accompanies work executed with exceptional care and dedication. The golden brown loaves, cooling serenely upon the sturdy wooden racks, represented far more than mere food. They embodied countless hours of meticulous attention, the culmination of years of painstakingly accumulated skill, and the invaluable legacy of generations of profound knowledge, carefully transmitted through the venerable guild of bakers. Each single loaf would proceed to nourish a family, contribute essential energy to the day's myriad activities, and provide the fundamental sustenance that ensured the continued, vibrant functioning of the entire community. Tomorrow, with the dawn, she would once again embark upon this ancient ritual, commencing with fresh dough, embracing new challenges, and seizing renewed opportunities to meticulously practice the venerable craft that miraculously transforms a few simple ingredients into the very staff of life. This prompts a reflection. What other essential services of ancient Greek life demanded such patient, daily attention to uphold its intricate rhythms? In a parallel vein to how bakers like Thalia sustained their communities with essential daily sustenance, the dedicated messengers and swift runners of ancient Greece diligently nurtured the vital connections between geographically distant locales through their patient, unwavering service. Philippus, with a practiced motion, adjusted the well-worn leather pouch securely slung across his shoulder and embarked from Athens as the first pale light of dawn gently kissed the slopes of Mount Pentelicus, commencing yet another arduous journey. This particular expedition was destined to transport crucial news, personal letters, and official governmental documents across the rugged mountainous expanse that meticulously delineated one proud city-state from another. His specific destination for the day was Corinth, a journey estimated to require 2 full days of relentless, steady travel over roads that varied dramatically in composition. Sometimes meticulously paved with stone, occasionally mere dirt paths, and at other times, nothing more than faint, ephemeral traces winding through untamed wilderness. The demanding life of a professional messenger necessitated a rare and potent combination of exceptional physical endurance, an encyclopedic knowledge of the local geography, and refined interpersonal skills, attributes that few individuals possessed in such a comprehensive measure. Philippus was required to possess the formidable strength to traverse a remarkable distance of 20 or even 30 miles each day entirely on foot, bearing not only the messages themselves, but also the essential provisions needed for journeys that often spanned multiple days. He had to be intimately familiar with every road, every reliable stopping place, and every conceivable seasonal hazard that might impede or endanger his travels. Crucially, he had to be a figure of unimpeachable trustworthiness, such that city officials, astute merchants, and private citizens alike felt confident in trusting him with confidential communications, invaluable documents, and urgent information that could profoundly impact people's livelihoods and, in certain critical instances, their very lives. The rigorous training of a messenger typically commenced in early childhood, with boys who displayed an innate aptitude for running being progressively introduced to increasingly longer distances and more challenging, varied terrain. The young Philippus initially began his training by conveying messages between various neighborhoods within Athens, thereby mastering the city's intricate and often confusing street patterns. This early work also served to meticulously build the essential leg strength required for constant walking, and to cultivate the steady, energy-efficient pace that enabled a runner to cover maximum distance without succumbing to debilitating exhaustion. As he consistently demonstrated his reliability on these shorter, localized runs, he was progressively entrusted with more extensive assignments, ultimately advancing to the demanding intercity routes that formed the indispensable backbone of the entire Greek communication network. The very roads themselves served as a testament to centuries of gradual, painstaking improvement and strategic expansion. Certain routes faithfully followed ancient pathways, deeply etched into the landscape by the countless footsteps of generations of travelers, shepherds expertly guiding their flocks to seasonal pastures, diligent traders transporting their wares between bustling markets, devout pilgrims journeying to sacred religious sites, and disciplined armies moving purposefully between contested territories. Other roads represented more recent feats of engineering and construction, meticulously paved with precisely cut stone blocks and ingeniously designed to offer the most direct and efficient arteries between vital destinations. Yet, even the most expertly constructed roads demanded perpetual maintenance, and seasoned runners learned the invaluable skill of navigating around unexpected washouts, sudden rock slides, and seasonal flooding that could render familiar routes temporarily impassable and perilous. The challenging topography of Greece frequently rendered certain travel routes temporarily impassable, creating significant hurdles for those needing to traverse the ancient landscape. The very physical composition of Greece presented formidable obstacles to the smooth flow of long-distance communication. Imposing mountain ranges dramatically compartmentalized valleys, which, despite being mere miles apart as the crow flies, necessitated many arduous hours of strenuous climbing on foot to successfully navigate. Conversely, while coastal pathways offered a respite from some of the steep elevation changes, they exposed wayfarers to an entirely different array of perils. Ferocious storms that transformed shoreline tracks into treacherous stretches, the unpredictable seasonal inundations of rivers that demanded perilous fording, and relentless expanses of coastline where sheer cliffs plunged directly into the Aegean, leaving absolutely no viable space for any continuous path. Philippus, a seasoned messenger, meticulously maintained a comprehensive mental cartography of the entire Hellenic region, a profound body of knowledge painstakingly amassed through countless years of dedicated travel and astute observation. He possessed an intimate understanding of which particular streams offered consistently reliable sources of potable water, discerned which settlements extended a warm welcome to weary travelers versus those that regarded strangers with profound suspicion, and precisely knew which specific mountain passes remained accessible latest into the depths of winter and earliest with the advent of spring. This invaluable practical wisdom could never be gleaned from dusty scrolls or rudimentary charts. It was acquired solely through direct, immersive experience, through the patient, granular accumulation of intricate details that only the most experienced travelers could leverage to render their arduous journeys both secure and maximally efficient. The diverse array of messages he dutifully conveyed constituted the very lifeblood, the essential circulatory system of ancient Greek civilization. Formal dispatches exchanged between sovereign city governments meticulously reported on complex diplomatic negotiations, strategic military maneuvers, crucial trade agreements, and the innumerable other pressing matters that demanded seamless coordination among these independent, self-governing communities. Commercial correspondence between enterprising merchants painstakingly arranged intricate shipments, skillfully negotiated competitive prices, and disseminated vital intelligence concerning fluctuating market conditions in far-flung urban centers. Private letters exchanged between cherished family members, devoted friends, and astute business associates diligently preserved and nurtured personal relationships across the vast distances that often separated the myriad Greek communities. The inviolability of these communications remained a perpetual and paramount concern, given that information inherently possessed immense value, and certain individuals were prepared to go to extraordinary lengths to intercept intelligence that might bestow upon them significant commercial or political advantages. Philippus, through years of practice, had mastered an array of sophisticated techniques for safeguarding the sensitive contents of his messages. Intricate coding systems meticulously designed to obscure confidential data, the pragmatic strategy of dispatching multiple copies via divergent routes to ensure the safe arrival of at least one, and a repertoire of specific recognition signals that enabled him to definitively verify the authentic identity of the intended recipients. The most exquisitely sensitive messages were, however, committed entirely to the messenger's memory rather than being inscribed, a method that demanded couriers possessing both truly exceptional powers of recall and unwavering, absolute reliability. Unpredictable weather patterns continually presented an evolving series of challenges, necessitating constant adaptation and astute judgment on the part of the messenger. The arrival of spring ushered in pervasive mud that could render established roads nearly impassable, while the scorching heat of summer posed a palpable danger to anyone attempting long-distance travel during the most intense hours of the day. Autumnal storms, with their sudden ferocity, were capable of swelling rivers to dangerous levels and washing out critical bridges with scant advance warning. The heavy snows of winter invariably closed crucial mountain passes and made any travel along high-altitude routes exceedingly treacherous, if not entirely impossible. Truly experienced messengers developed a profound ability to interpret subtle weather signs and accordingly adjust their demanding schedules, sometimes prudently postponing their journey for several days to await improved conditions rather than risking perilous travel. The relentless physical demands inherent in constant travel necessitated meticulous attention to nutrition, adequate hydration, and sufficient rest. Philippus sagaciously carried an assortment of dried provisions specifically chosen for their resilience against spoilage during multi-day journeys. Hard, durable bread, sun-dried fruits, various nuts, and aged cheese that matured gracefully rather than succumbing to decay. He possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of the precise location of every dependable water source along his frequently traveled routes, and he invariably carried robust water containers for those extended stretches where natural sources were notably scarce. Sleep, more often than not, entailed camping beneath the vast expanse of the stars, wrapped in a simple cloak, relying on a combination of sheer luck and constant vigilance for protection against both wild, predatory animals and potential human threats. Yet despite the formidable hardships, this demanding profession also bestowed unique rewards that few other ancient occupations could ever hope to rival. Professional messengers, by the very nature of their work, experienced far more of the world than the vast majority of people in ancient times. Immersing themselves in the rich diversity of landscapes, the myriad cultures, and the varied ways of life that thrived within the expansive Greek sphere. They consequently cultivated a broader, more nuanced perspective on unfolding events, comprehending how localized developments seamlessly integrated into larger societal patterns, discerning intricate connections between distant communities that might remain entirely unapparent to individuals who never ventured beyond their immediate locale. This profound, acquired knowledge rendered them exceptionally valuable sources of information and sagacious advice, establishing them as highly respected members within the very communities they so diligently served. Beyond the undeniable physical rigors, the intricate social dimensions of messenger work proved every bit as crucial to their success and efficacy. Messengers functioned as unofficial, yet vital news networks, conveying not merely formal official messages, but also an array of gossip, rumors, and general information that played a pivotal role in helping communities maintain their vital connection with the broader world. They brought tidings of joyous festivals and celebrations, reported on the fortunes of good or bad harvests, and disseminated crucial information about political developments that might potentially impact trade routes or ease of travel. This robust, informal communication network was instrumental in forging the pervasive sense of shared culture that effectively bound the disparate Greek world together, notwithstanding its inherent political fragmentation. Cultivating robust relationships with innkeepers, stable owners, and other individuals who provided essential services to travelers was absolutely critical for the successful execution of a messenger's arduous work. These invaluable connections were meticulously forged over many years of honest dealings, prompt and reliable payment, and a foundation of mutual respect. A messenger who assiduously cultivated a reputation for fair dealing and engaging conversation would invariably discover that doors opened with greater readiness, vital information flowed more freely, and crucial assistance materialized swiftly whenever emergencies inevitably arose. Conversely, messengers who demonstrably abused hospitality or proved to be consistently unreliable very quickly found themselves unwelcome at the very establishments upon which they critically depended for the successful completion of their assigned routes. The ingenious development of sophisticated relay systems dramatically enabled messages to travel at a significantly accelerated pace than any single individual messenger could ever achieve. Rather than one person undertaking an entire, often lengthy journey, messages were efficiently passed between a succession of fresh runners strategically stationed at regular intervals, thereby allowing each new messenger to maintain maximum speed over shorter, more manageable distances. These intricate systems demanded meticulous coordination and absolute unwavering reliability from all participants, as a failure at any single point inevitably fractured the entire communication chain. However, when these systems operated with flawless precision, relay networks possessed the unparalleled capacity to convey urgent messages faster than any other method of ancient communication. Mastery of navigation skills became an intuitive second nature to experienced messengers who learned to unerringly find their way using the sun's position, the patterns of the stars, distinctive geographical landmarks, and even subtle environmental clues that precisely indicated direction and location. The critical ability to maintain an accurate course during challenging night travel, through obscuring fog, or within unfamiliar territory could mean the profound difference between a successful, timely delivery and dangerous, costly delays. These indispensable skills were painstakingly developed gradually through years of careful observation and the kind of heightened attention to natural signs that ancient peoples cultivated out of sheer practical necessity. The undeniable economic significance of consistently reliable communication ensured that professional messengers enjoyed steady employment and a considerable degree of social respect. Despite the undeniable physical hardships inherent in their demanding work, merchants depended heavily upon them for critical information regarding market conditions. Governments relied implicitly on them for essential diplomatic and administrative communications, and individuals entrusted them with deeply personal messages that sustained vital family and social relationships across vast distances. This pervasive dependence not only created a secure professional niche, but also imposed a significant burden of responsibility, given that failures in communication could precipitate grave consequences for all parties involved. As Philippos reached the halfway point of his arduous journey to Corinth and paused to rest at a familiar, welcoming inn, he momentarily reflected on the profound role his tireless work played in diligently maintaining the intricate connections that intricately bound Greek civilization together. Each precious message he carefully carried represented a vital thread in the complex, interwoven tapestry of relationships, be they political, commercial, or deeply personal, that enabled widely scattered communities to function cohesively as a unified culture. Tomorrow, he would diligently complete this particular delivery and commence the return journey to Athens, bearing new messages that would perpetuate the ceaseless circulation of information, an unending flow that kept the ancient world profoundly connected. Beyond the tireless couriers like Philippos, what other patient servants meticulously maintained the essential infrastructure that allowed ancient Greek civilization to flourish and expand across such vast distances. While messengers like Philippos carried words across great geographical expanses, the diligent scribes of ancient Greece preserved words across immense spans of time. In a small, unassuming, windowless chamber nestled deep beneath the bustling Athenian agora, Lysander carefully dipped his finely sharpened reed pen into meticulously prepared ink and continued his painstaking task of copying the comprehensive legal code that would govern his beloved city for countless generations yet to come. Every single letter had to be flawlessly formed, each individual word impeccably spelled, each line precisely spaced. A solitary mistake within such critical legal documents possessed the power to fundamentally alter meanings, inadvertently create perilous loopholes, or entirely invalidate crucial provisions. The exacting work demanded absolute unwavering concentration, infinite patience, and a profound reverence for the written word, a deep understanding that few people in this predominantly oral culture truly comprehended or appreciated. The meticulous preservation of laws in their written form represents one of humanity's most monumental achievements, though it is so profoundly fundamental to modern life that we seldom pause to contemplate its immense importance. Prior to the advent of writing, laws existed solely within the fallible confines of human memory, faithfully passed down through successive generations of esteemed judges and revered elders who diligently maintained oral traditions. But human memory, by its very nature, is susceptible to error. Interpretations inevitably shift and evolve over time, and contentious disputes frequently arose concerning the precise wording and intent of the law. Written law codes, however, provided an immutable foundation of stability, unwavering consistency, and the invaluable ability to consult exact wordings whenever questions or disagreements inevitably arose. The esteemed Lysander acquired his specialized profession through time-honored methods, dedicating numerous years to an apprenticeship under the tutelage of venerable master scribes. These mentors imparted not only the intricate technical proficiencies of script production, but also instilled within him the profound moral obligations inherent in safeguarding vital historical and legal records. His rigorous education commenced with the meticulous preparation of all necessary writing accoutrements, precisely fashioning reed pens to achieve the ideal point and pliancy, concocting indelible inks formulated to retain their legibility for millennia, and expertly treating parchment and papyrus surfaces to ensure they would flawlessly absorb ink and retain their structural integrity through the passage of ages. While distinct from the exertions endured by couriers or artisans, the physical demands of a scribe's work are undeniably arduous. Prolonged hours spent hunched over writing surfaces inevitably lead to persistent ailments of the back and neck. The exceptionally fine detail required for calligraphy severely taxes the eyes, a strain exacerbated when laboring under the flickering glow of an oil lamp or the dim light of a candle. Furthermore, the ceaseless, repetitive hand motions involved in transcription can induce considerable discomfort and pain in the hands and arms. Yet, arguably the most formidable challenge lies in the sheer mental fortitude demanded for sustained, unwavering concentration. Even a fleeting lapse in attention can introduce egregious errors, necessitating the laborious recreation of entire sections of a document. The vast compendium of legal instruments that Lysander meticulously reproduces encompasses virtually every facet of communal existence. These include commercial statutes that meticulously govern contractual agreements, intricate trade pacts, and the intricate nuances of property ownership. Criminal codes that precisely delineate offenses and their corresponding retributions. Foundational constitutional provisions that establish governmental operational protocols and safeguard the fundamental entitlements of citizens. And extensive administrative regulations that oversee everything from the daily bustle of market operations to the solemn observances of religious festivals. Each distinct category of document mandates its own particular formatting conventions, varying degrees of granular detail, and specialized methodologies for organization and inter-document cross-referencing. A deep comprehension of the textual content he meticulously copies significantly elevates Lysander's efficacy as a scribe. This understanding empowers him to discern potential inaccuracies that may have infiltrated source documents and to consistently apply appropriate legal terminology throughout his work. He has cultivated an encyclopedic knowledge of Athenian law, not through formal jurisprudential instruction, but rather through the assiduous process of transcribing thousands upon thousands of legal provisions. This painstaking effort has allowed him to observe the intricate interrelationships between diverse statutes and to grasp how overarching legal principles are practically applied across a multitude of distinct circumstances. The constituent components employed for crafting legal instruments must invariably adhere to the most stringent benchmarks of resilience and longevity. Papyrus, ingeniously fabricated from the stalks of Egyptian reeds, presents an admirable medium for inscription, though it tends to degrade with relative swiftness in humid environments. Parchment, on the other hand, meticulously prepared from specially processed animal hides, commands a higher financial outlay, but boasts significantly superior durability and an enhanced resistance to the wear and tear of frequent handling. For the most critically important documents, scribes employ only the finest quality parchment available, meticulously prepared according to time-honored techniques specifically designed to maximize its lifespan and fortify its defenses against fading, cracking, or any other detrimental forms of deterioration. Inks, too, pose their own distinct set of formidable challenges, for an improperly formulated concoction can, over time, either dissipate into illegibility, bleed uncontrollably across the page, or even corrosively erode the very writing surface itself. The superlative inks designated for permanent documents are meticulously crafted from precisely calibrated amalgamations of carbon black and specific binding agents, engineered to permeate the writing surface rather than merely resting superficially upon it. These specialized inks necessitate regular, fresh preparation, as they are prone to thickening and becoming unmanageable if allowed to stagnate for extended durations. The art of preparing truly excellent ink is, in itself, an intricate discipline, demanding a sophisticated grasp of chemistry, an understanding of materials science, and a keen awareness of the particular demands imposed by various classifications of documents. The intricate process of transcription adheres to a venerable sequence of established procedures, meticulously conceived to minimize the potential for error and to guarantee an unwavering consistency. Initially, Lysander undertakes a thorough and analytical reading of the source document, diligently scrutinizing it to identify any latent ambiguities, problematic phraseology, or unclear passages that may necessitate clarification before the actual copying endeavor commences. Subsequently, he embarks upon the careful planning of the new document's physical layout, precisely calculating the requisite spatial allocation for each distinct section, strategically determining the optimal placement of page breaks, and devising an arrangement of the text that will maximize both its readability and its practical utility within a legal context. The actual transcription itself unfolds in a series of meticulously structured stages, each incorporating deliberate checkpoints designed to identify and rectify inaccuracies. The initial phase involves creating a rough draft, where the paramount objective is the accurate capture of all content, with less emphasis placed on achieving perfect aesthetic formatting. This preliminary draft then undergoes a rigorous proofreading, involving a word-by-word comparison against the original source document, with all identified discrepancies scrupulously corrected. Only upon the satisfactory completion of this painstaking verification does work commence on the final version, which is expected to fulfill the most exacting benchmarks of legibility, precise formatting, and impeccable physical presentation. Legal documents necessitate an exceptional degree of attention to formatting and organizational structure, elements crucial for ensuring their practical utility as reference tools. Related provisions must be logically arrayed, accompanied by unambiguous headings and subheadings that empower users to swiftly pinpoint specific information. Cross-references, linking disparate sections, must be flawlessly accurate and genuinely helpful. Furthermore, critical definitions and foundational legal principles require prominent highlighting or strategic placement to facilitate their immediate discovery. All these requirements demand not merely proficient copying abilities, but also acute editorial discretion and a profound understanding of how these documents will ultimately be utilized in real-world scenarios. The subsequent challenges of storing and preserving completed legal documents are ongoing and extend considerably beyond the initial act of transcription. These invaluable records must be vigilantly shielded from the destructive forces of moisture, the depredations of insects and rodents, the ravages of fire, and the pervasive threat of human negligence. They require systematic organization methods that enable the swift retrieval of specific items whenever their consultation becomes necessary. Moreover, they mandate periodic inspection and diligent maintenance routines to detect any signs of deterioration before such damage escalates to a critical level. Most fundamentally, they demand regular recopying to generate fresh versions, thereby ensuring their continued accessibility before the original manuscripts become too compromised to decipher. The profound societal significance of unimpeachable legal records means that scribes such as Lysander occupy positions of considerable public trust and weighty responsibility. Citizens from all walks of life, industrious merchants, and governmental functionaries alike rely implicitly upon these legal documents for the safeguarding of their entitlements, the equitable resolution of conflicts, and authoritative guidance in navigating intricate circumstances. Errors introduced during the copying of legal texts can precipitate severe repercussions, potentially invalidating crucial contracts, unjustly favoring certain parties, or rendering it utterly impossible to definitively ascertain the precise legal requirements in specific complex situations. The meticulously designed working environment of legal scribes serves as a palpable reflection of the paramount importance ascribed to their endeavors. Lysander's dedicated copying chamber, for instance, is purposefully engineered to furnish optimal conditions conducive to highly detailed work. Abundant, steady illumination, a consistently comfortable ambient temperature, and effective insulation from distracting noise and disruptive interruptions. The furniture within is thoughtfully arranged to promote correct posture and mitigate physical strain over long hours. Writing surfaces are precisely calibrated and positioned at the ideal height and angle for comfort and efficiency. Sophisticated storage systems ensure that all necessary materials remain impeccably organized and readily accessible. Every single element is carefully orchestrated to foster unwavering accuracy, maximize operational efficiency, and safeguard the enduring preservation of these invaluable documents. Collaboration among scribes proves absolutely indispensable for undertaking monumental projects, such as the comprehensive transcription of entire legal codes or the compilation of exhaustive administrative records. In such endeavors, various scribes may simultaneously engage with different sections, necessitating incredibly meticulous coordination to guarantee absolute consistency in formatting, specialized terminology, and the intricate network of cross-references. Regularly scheduled meetings afford scribes the opportunity to deliberate upon emerging challenges, exchange effective solutions, and collectively uphold the exceptionally rigorous standards that legal documents unequivocally demand. This cooperative methodology also furnishes crucial safeguards against individual human error, as multiple skilled individuals meticulously review each document before it is ultimately deemed complete and authoritative. The intellectual demands inherent in legal transcription extend far beyond the mere mechanical act of reproduction, encompassing sophisticated interpretation, strategic organization, and discerning editorial judgment. Legalistic language frequently incorporates highly specialized terminology, labyrinthine sentence constructions, and intricate references to other documents or foundational legal tenets. Scribes must possess a sufficiently profound grasp of these complexities to instantaneously recognize instances where textual meaning falters, where cross-references are demonstrably erroneous, or where particular formatting choices might inadvertently sow confusion for future users of the documents. The rigorous training of aspiring scribes involves not merely the imparting of technical aptitudes, but also the crucial inculcation of the precise attitudes and unwavering work habits that the demanding field of legal copying necessitates, an exacting attention to minute detail, an enduring patience for repetitive tasks, an unyielding pride in achieving absolute accuracy, and a profound comprehension of the broader societal significance of their work must all be painstakingly cultivated through extensive practical experience and dedicated mentorship. Master scribes, exemplified by Lysander, embrace this vital training responsibility with utmost gravity, acutely aware that the enduring quality of future legal records hinges directly upon the thoroughness with which they prepare their successors. The economic dimensions of scribal craftsmanship powerfully underscore the immense value that society places upon meticulously accurate legal records. Professional scribes typically command respectable remuneration, enjoy consistent employment, and are afforded considerable social esteem. The specialized materials they utilize, premium parchment, indelible inks, and purpose-built instruments, represent substantial financial commitments that communities willingly undertake, driven by the undeniable importance of possessing trustworthy legal documentation. This robust economic support system empowers scribes to prioritize the superlative quality of their output over mere speed, thereby enabling them to produce documents destined to serve their communities for countless generations. As the day wanes and evening descends, Lysander brings another section of the extensive legal code he has been diligently transcribing to its completion. He is suffused with a profound, quiet contentment, a satisfaction born from engaging in work that transcends immediate gratification and serves a far grander purpose. The precise words he has so painstakingly preserved today are destined to guide future legal deliberations, safeguard the fundamental rights of citizens, and uphold the very fabric of social order long after his own name has faded from memory. His unwavering attention to detail, his patient and steadfast commitment to unimpeachable accuracy, and his deep understanding of the overarching importance of written law all contribute indispensably to the bedrock foundation of civilized society. Tomorrow, with renewed purpose, he will embark upon another section, continuing the ceaseless yet utterly essential endeavor of perpetuating human knowledge in its most durable and permanent form. The preservation of human knowledge in a lasting form, a monumental endeavor, was not solely the responsibility of those who meticulously documented laws and historical accounts. Beyond the diligent scribes like Lysander, who painstakingly transcribed the legal frameworks that underpinned ancient Greek civilization, other patient guardians of vital information played an equally crucial role in sustaining its intellectual and practical foundations. For instance, the dedicated salt gatherers of the Aegean region were instrumental in preserving the very foodstuffs that nourished this vibrant society. Consider Theodorus, a seasoned artisan who regularly immerses himself in the shallow, sun-warmed lagoons along the Marathon coast, the briny water lapping at his legs as he commences another demanding day of extracting one of antiquity's most invaluable commodities. While salt may appear ubiquitous and unremarkable to contemporary individuals, its significance in the ancient world was profound, literally equating to its weight in silver. It was an indispensable element for the prolonged preservation of food, the meticulous curing of leather, and a myriad of other critical processes that collectively enabled the flourishing of civilized existence. The intricate method of extracting salt from seawater demands immense patience, precise timing, and an intimate, nuanced comprehension of localized environmental conditions, a mastery that typically requires many years of dedicated observation and practical experience to cultivate. Theodorus, through years of diligent practice, has honed his ability to discern the subtle environmental cues that signal optimal conditions for salt production. He adeptly recognizes the perfect confluence of temperature, atmospheric humidity, prevailing wind patterns, and the intricate ebb and flow of tidal cycles, all of which coalesce to forge an ideal milieu for natural evaporation. An excessive deluge of rain would unfortunately dilute the concentrated brine, rendering it less potent. Conversely, an insufficient duration of sunlight would impede the crucial evaporative process. Furthermore, an overly vigorous wind could prematurely scatter the nascent, precious crystals before they could be properly collected. The extensive salt flats where Theodorus diligently toils are not merely fortuitous natural phenomena, but rather meticulously engineered systems comprising shallow, interconnected ponds and a network of channels. These sophisticated structures have been assiduously maintained and continuously refined by successive generations of salt gatherers, a testament to their enduring legacy. Each individual pond is calibrated with exacting precision to guarantee a uniform water depth across its expanse, featuring clay-lined bottoms designed to inhibit seepage and prevent the loss of precious brine. Furthermore, strategically placed wooden gates meticulously regulate the flow of water between the various sections of this intricate hydraulic system. The channels, which serve as conduits for fresh seawater into the entire complex, undergo regular and thorough cleaning to prevent any obstruction by sand, accumulated seaweed, or other detritus that powerful storms might sweep in from deeper oceanic waters. The early hours of the morning present the most opportune time for inspecting the salt ponds. When the ambient air remains cool and the overnight evaporation has successfully concentrated the brine to its ideal strength, Theodorus embarks on his methodical rounds. He moves deliberately through the shallow water, employing a long wooden rake to carefully probe the bottom of each pond, listening intently for the distinctive telltale crunch of salt crystals crystallizing on the clay surface. This auditory signal is unmistakable, markedly different from the soft squelch of mud or the abrasive scrape of shells and stones. Upon identifying a pond ripe for harvesting, he precisely marks its location with a wooden stake, ensuring he can return later with the appropriate specialized tools for extraction. The act of harvesting salt transcends mere manual labor. It is, in essence, a refined art form. The delicate crystals must be collected at the precise, opportune moment. To harvest them prematurely would result in crystals that are still too diminutive and intermingled with undesirable impurities. Conversely, to delay the harvest for too long would allow them to begin dissolving back into the brine, diminishing their quantity and quality. Theodorus employs a specialized implement, ingeniously designed as a hybrid of a rake and a scoop, featuring closely spaced wooden tines that permit water to freely drain through while securely capturing the invaluable salt crystals. Each scoop must be executed with utmost care and precision, meticulously avoiding any disturbance of the sediment resting on the pond's bottom, as this would inevitably contaminate the pristine white salt with mud and extraneous debris. The collected salt is carefully deposited into robust woven baskets, each thoughtfully lined with a permeable cloth. This clever design facilitates the drainage of excess brine, effectively separating it from the concentrated crystals. These filled baskets are then strategically positioned on elevated wooden platforms, ensuring they remain above the water level. This arrangement harnesses the power of gravity, allowing it to perform the majority of the work in separating the liquid from the solid components. This crucial process cannot, under any circumstances, be expedited. Any attempt to forcefully squeeze or press the salt to hasten water removal would invariably crush the delicate crystals, thereby significantly compromising the integrity and quality of the final product. Instead, Theodorus meticulously arranges the baskets in a specific pattern, ingeniously maximizing both air circulation and efficient drainage. Maintaining stringent quality control is an absolutely critical aspect of salt production, primarily because different grades of salt are intended for distinct purposes and, consequently, command varying prices in the market. The most exquisite, pristine white crystals, entirely devoid of any discoloration or foreign particulate matter, are meticulously reserved for the highest value applications, namely food preservation and gourmet seasoning. These premium crystals will ultimately be sold to affluent households, discerning professional chefs, and astute merchants who specialize in the trade of luxury commodities. Lower grades of salt, which might permissibly contain some traces of sand or organic material, are nevertheless perfectly suitable for applications such as curing leather, dyeing textiles, or other industrial processes where absolute purity is less paramount than sheer quantity. The intricate business of salt gathering necessitates a meticulous awareness of prevailing market conditions and the cultivation of robust customer relationships, aspects that extend far beyond the purely physical labor of harvesting. Theodorus assiduously maintains vital connections with merchants who are responsible for transporting salt to distant inland cities, with dedicated food preservers who rely on consistent supplies for their enterprises, and with affluent households that consistently value the unwavering quality of his product. These indispensable relationships are painstakingly forged over many years of unwavering reliability in delivery, transparent and honest dealings, and the cultivation of an impeccable reputation for producing salt that precisely fulfills the specific requirements of each individual customer. The unpredictable forces of weather present constant, formidable challenges that demand both swift flexibility and astute long-term strategic planning. A mere week of incessant heavy rainfall can devastate an entire batch of developing salt, compelling the gatherer to drain the affected ponds and restart the arduous process anew with fresh seawater. Violent storms possess the destructive potential to damage the meticulously maintained pond structures, necessitating immediate and often extensive repairs to avert the catastrophic loss of concentrated brine, a precious commodity representing many weeks of patient, diligent work. Furthermore, extended periods of overcast weather significantly impede the crucial evaporation process, leading to a backlog of partially developed salt that must be managed with extreme care to prevent spoilage and ensure its viability. The inherent seasonal rhythms governing salt production dictate that the vast majority of the year's harvest must be diligently completed during the arid summer months, a period when evaporation rates are at their zenith and rainfall is at its absolute minimum. This cyclical pattern engenders intense periods of frenetic activity, which are subsequently followed by quieter months. During these less active times, attention shifts towards essential maintenance, necessary repairs, and thorough preparation for the ensuing season. Throughout the winter, Theodorus dedicatedly repairs and incrementally improves his intricate pond systems, meticulously negotiates contracts with his valued customers for the upcoming year, and diligently processes the substantial quantities of stored salt accumulated from the summer harvests, carefully grading and packaging it for distribution. The specialized tools and intricate equipment employed in salt gathering are not merely utilitarian objects. They are vital instruments that demand to be maintained with the same exacting care and meticulous attention afforded to the salt ponds themselves. Wooden tools, for instance, are regularly treated with specific oils, carefully chosen to prevent rot without introducing any contaminants that could compromise the purity of the salt. Metal components are diligently kept free of any rust, which would invariably discolor the pristine final product, and the woven baskets are conscientiously repaired or replaced before any wear and tear creates holes that would allow the precious salt to escape. Even the seemingly simple cloth linings are subject to careful selection and meticulous upkeep. Different weaves inherently provide varying drainage rates, and certain dyes or chemical treatments, while appearing harmless, could subtly affect the delicate taste or visual appearance of the salt, diminishing its quality. The profound body of knowledge essential for successful salt production encompasses a sophisticated understanding of chemistry, meteorology, and engineering, a depth of expertise that genuinely rivals any other ancient craft. Salt gatherers must possess an intricate comprehension of how various dissolved minerals crystallize at distinct concentrations, how fluctuating atmospheric pressure directly influences evaporation rates, and how to expertly design and meticulously maintain complex hydraulic systems that precisely regulate water flow through multiple interconnected ponds. This invaluable knowledge is typically transmitted across generations within families or through rigorous apprenticeship systems, thereby ensuring the preservation of both practical techniques and underlying theoretical understanding. The economic dimensions of the salt trade vividly underscore the indispensable nature of this commodity within ancient society. Salt gathering consistently provides a stable income throughout the productive season, with distinct opportunities for achieving premium prices when supply is constrained by adverse weather conditions or other unforeseen factors. The work undeniably necessitates a significant initial capital investment in the construction of ponds and the acquisition of specialized equipment. But these substantial costs can be gradually recouped over many years of sustained production. Crucially, the demand for salt remains perpetually constant and remarkably predictable. Everyone in society requires it, and for the vast majority of its essential uses, there are simply no effective or readily available substitutes. The inherent competition among various salt gatherers fosters a spirit of innovation and encourages continuous quality improvement, while simultaneously cultivating cooperative relationships that are absolutely necessary for the sharing of invaluable knowledge and critical resources. While neighboring gatherers might indeed vie for the most lucrative customers and strive to achieve the highest possible prices, they also routinely exchange crucial information regarding prevailing weather patterns, evolving market conditions, and technical advancements that ultimately benefit every participant in the industry. During times of crisis, such as major storms or significant equipment malfunctions, these competitors often transform into collaborators, readily lending tools, sharing valuable workspace, or providing temporary labor to assist one another in maintaining essential production. The social standing of salt gatherers accurately reflects the profound importance of their indispensable product, while simultaneously acknowledging the inherent physical demands and the ever-present economic uncertainties associated with their arduous work. They are universally respected as highly skilled craftsmen who provide an essential service to the community, yet they are not typically among the wealthiest or particularly influential figures in broader political or cultural spheres. Their primary social connections are predominantly with other individuals deeply involved in food production and preservation. Farmers, bakers, astute merchants, and diligent householders who possess a practical and profound understanding of the critical importance of having reliable access to consistently high-quality salt. As the afternoon gradually approaches and the sun ascends to its zenith, casting its most intense rays, Theodorus meticulously completes his morning rounds. He then embarks upon the careful and precise process of transporting the freshly harvested salt to designated storage areas, where it will continue its crucial drying phase before being meticulously packaged for eventual sale. The warm crystals shimmer and sparkle like countless tiny diamonds under the brilliant sunlight, each one representing innumerable hours of patient labor and meticulous attention to the intricate natural processes that have unfolded in precisely the same manner for countless generations. His steady, methodical approach to this ancient and vital craft not only helps to preserve the essential foods that sustain his community, but also diligently maintains the enduring traditions that intimately connect him to the unbroken lineage of salt-gatherers who have toiled in these very same coastal waters throughout history. The industrious hands of individuals, much like those of Theodora's, tirelessly toiled along these very coastal stretches. Indeed, a broader inquiry reveals the myriad essential crafts that empowered ancient Greeks to ingeniously transmute the raw bounty of their natural environment into the fundamental resources indispensable for the flourishing of civilized society. In stark contrast to the salt-gatherers such as Theodora's, whose daily existence was dictated by the ceaseless ebb and flow of the sea and the immediate contours of the shore, the revered shepherds of Arcadia embraced a life attuned to the more profound, unhurried cadences of their rugged mountains and verdant pastures. One such venerable figure, Aristomos, meticulously navigates his cherished flock along time-honored pathways, which gracefully meander through ancient groves of venerable oak trees and stretch across expansive meadows resplendent with a vibrant tapestry of indigenous wildflowers. These very routes have been faithfully traversed by an unbroken lineage of pastoralists for untold generations. The majestic mountains of Arcadia ascend with a serene, undulating grace towards the azure heavens, their expansive slopes generously cloaked in a rich profusion of nutrient-dense grasses and aromatic herbs, renowned throughout the entirety of Greece for yielding milk of unparalleled sweetness and wool of the most exquisite, coveted quality. The demanding vocation of shepherding within these formidable mountain ranges necessitates an exceptionally profound and intimate understanding of the terrain, extending far beyond the rudimentary awareness of where fodder simply proliferates. Aristomos, for instance, possesses the rare acumen to discern impending meteorological shifts merely by observing the subtle formations of clouds as they gather around specific peaks. He can accurately forecast the accessibility of vital water sources by keenly interpreting the nuanced hues of vegetation in remote valleys, and he is adept at pinpointing secure havens that will offer impregnable sanctuary to his flock against the sudden onslaught of tempestuous storms or the lurking menace of predators. This invaluable corpus of wisdom has been assiduously transmitted through his ancestral line across countless generations, meticulously honed and perfected through ceaseless practical experience and acute observational insight, culminating in a holistic comprehension of how to harmoniously collaborate with, rather than contend against, the intricate mechanisms of natural ecosystems. The ovine members of this ancient Arcadian flock are, notably, not the placid, domesticated creatures commonly encountered on contemporary agricultural estates. Instead, they are robust, remarkably intelligent beings, supremely adapted to the rigors and unique demands of mountain existence. These sagacious animals have, over time, assiduously learned to interpret and respond to Aristomos's nuanced directives. A distinct, piercing whistle signals them to ascend the slope. A precise hand gesture communicates the imperative to remain cohesive as a unit, and a subtle alteration in his walking cadence serves as an immediate caution regarding imminent peril lurking ahead. The profound bond between this shepherd and his flock transcends mere ownership. It is fundamentally predicated upon a deep-seated mutual comprehension and an unwavering reciprocal trust, meticulously forged over myriad years of shared trials and triumphs within formidable, unforgiving environments where unreserved cooperation is not merely advantageous, but absolutely indispensable for their collective perpetuation. Every successive season ushers in its own distinct set of formidable challenges and promising opportunities, each demanding meticulous foresight and planning and an agile capacity for adaptive responses. With the arrival of spring, Aristomos must skillfully guide his flock towards the elevated pastures as the winter snows recede and the first tender shoots of verdant grass emerge. Yet, this period also entails the arduous task of traversing treacherous, muddy pathways, fording dangerously swollen streams, and attending to the crucial birthing season, during which the ewes require an intensified degree of vigilance, care, and robust protection. Summer, while presenting the most abundant and nutritious grazing, simultaneously introduces the grave perils of protracted drought, oppressive, searing heat, and the heightened activity of predators, whose hunger is sharpened by the plentiful availability of prey. As autumn descends, the imperative shifts towards assiduously preparing the flock for the impending harshness of winter, necessitating the careful enhancement of their physical condition while systematically migrating them to lower-lying, more naturally sheltered grazing grounds. The quotidian rhythm of shepherding, while outwardly appearing to adhere to predictable patterns, is in fact characterized by an endless variability, shaped by the whims of nature. The nascent hours of the morning are dedicated to a rigorous inspection of each individual animal, diligently searching for any indications of malady or physical harm, followed by a precise head count of the entire flock to ascertain that no member has strayed or been lost during the nocturnal hours. Concurrently, Aristomos meticulously evaluates the prevailing weather conditions, a critical step in formulating the day's strategic movements. Throughout the day, the flock progresses at a measured, unhurried pace across the expansive landscape, punctuated by frequent necessary pauses for grazing on nourishing forage, hydrating at pristine water sources, and periods of vital repose. As the afternoon sun reaches its zenith, ushering in the most intense heat, the sheep instinctively gravitate towards the sanctuary of shade. This quieter interlude provides Aristomos with an opportune moment to attend to various essential duties, such as meticulously mending worn equipment, verifying the contents and integrity of his cached supplies, or assiduously scouting and mapping out potential routes for the subsequent day's arduous trek. Effective navigation across the formidable and often treacherous mountain terrain demands a sophisticated blend of astute practical knowledge intertwined with an almost intuitive grasp of both animal behavior and the intricate workings of natural systems. Aristomos possesses an extraordinary ability to interpret the very contours of the landscape as if it were a meticulously rendered map, assiduously noting prominent landmarks, discerning the subtle shifts wrought by seasonal transitions, and recognizing minute, often imperceptible signs that unerringly point to the most advantageous routes under varying environmental conditions. His profound understanding encompasses an awareness of which specific pathways become utterly impassable following torrential downpours, which particular sectors are inherently susceptible to perilous rockslides, and precisely which meadows offer the most luxuriant and nutritious grazing at distinct junctures throughout the annual cycle. This remarkably comprehensive mental map is not static. It is perpetually refined and updated, integrating fresh observations and adapting to the dynamic, ever-changing conditions of his challenging domain. The specialized equipment employed in the demanding practice of mountain shepherding is invariably chosen with painstaking discernment, prioritizing paramount durability, multifaceted functionality, and crucial portability. Aristomos, for instance, is never without his indispensable staff, an instrument that fulfills a remarkable array of purposes. It serves as a steadfast walking aid across uneven ground, a gentle yet firm tool for expertly guiding his flock, a formidable defensive weapon for warding off predatory threats, and even a practical measuring device for accurately gauging the depth of flowing streams or accumulated snow. His robust cloak, meticulously woven from the finest local wool, offers essential warmth even when thoroughly saturated, and provides unwavering protection against biting winds and the relentless glare of the sun. Crucial provisions such as durable water containers, concentrated food supplies, and essential repair materials are all judiciously selected, not only for their optimal weight-to-utility ratio, but also for their inherent capacity to endure the severe rigors and rough handling inherent in navigating such arduous and unforgiving conditions. The intricate discipline of predator management within the mountain environment mandates not only unceasing vigilance, but also the deployment of a diverse array of sophisticated strategies, all meticulously designed to strike a delicate equilibrium between safeguarding the vulnerable flock and maintaining an inherent respect for the integrity of the natural ecosystem. Formidable adversaries such as wolves, powerful bears, and elusive large cats all represent significant potential menaces, yet smaller, more opportunistic predators like cunning foxes also pose a considerable threat, frequently targeting nascent lambs or infirm animals. Aristomos masterfully employs specially trained guard dogs, bred and conditioned specifically for the arduous demands of mountain work. Beyond this, he skillfully implements other preventive techniques, including the strategic positioning of his flock in less exposed areas, the careful and precise timing of their movements through particularly vulnerable zones, and the ingenious construction of temporary barriers, ingeniously utilizing available natural features or easily transportable materials to deter intrusion. The profound social dimensions inherent in the practice of shepherding encompass the vital cultivation and meticulous maintenance of enduring connections with fellow herders, surrounding local communities, and the expansive, intricate network of individuals engaged in the downstream processes of wool and dairy production. Shepherds routinely exchange crucial intelligence concerning optimal grazing conditions, prevailing weather patterns, recent predator sightings and activity, and fluctuating market prices through robust, informal channels that organically extend across the entire geographical region. Furthermore, they conscientiously coordinate their migratory movements to preclude the detrimental overgrazing of specific, sensitive areas and offer indispensable mutual aid and support during unforeseen emergencies or exceptionally arduous conditions. These invaluable relationships are assiduously nurtured and reinforced through periodic convocations at time-honored traditional gathering locales, participation in vibrant seasonal festivals, and the customary, generous hospitality that shepherds unfailingly extend to wayfarers traversing their often remote territories. The sophisticated art of breeding management within shepherding demands not only astute long-term strategic planning, but also meticulous, detailed record-keeping, all geared towards guaranteeing the sustained vitality and prolific productivity of the flock over the span of many successive generations. Aristomos assiduously traces bloodlines, vigilantly monitors the efficacy of breeding outcomes, and makes profoundly informed decisions regarding which particular animals to retain for future breeding, which to offer for sale, and which to strategically exchange with neighboring herders to judiciously introduce novel genetic material. These pivotal determinations are predicated upon a complex interplay of critical factors, including the inherent quality of the wool produced, the volume and richness of milk yielded, the animal's natural resistance to prevalent diseases, and its intrinsic adaptability to the demanding conditions of the mountain environment. Qualities that often do not fully manifest until the animals attain full maturity. Beyond the daily grind, the vibrant seasonal festivals and deeply rooted religious observances serve as invaluable conduits, furnishing shepherds with crucial opportunities to convene, to freely exchange vital information, and to diligently uphold the rich tapestry of cultural traditions that inextricably link them to their profound historical and spiritual heritage. Central among these is the revered worship of Pan, the ancient goat-footed deity, patron god of shepherds and the untamed wilderness. This veneration encompasses sacred rituals that eloquently acknowledge the fundamental dependence of human communities upon the intricate balance of natural systems and underscore the profound moral responsibility inherent in nurturing domestic animals within wild, untamed environments. Such profound observances not only robustly reinforce the ethical dimensions intrinsic to the shepherding vocation, but also furnish invaluable spiritual succor and resilience, vital for confronting the pervasive isolation and manifold challenges that characterize life in the rugged mountains. The intricate economic facets of shepherding are characterized by a multiplicity of diverse income streams, each necessitating a distinct specialized knowledge base and a keen, nuanced awareness of market dynamics. Revenue generated from wool sales is critically contingent upon the fiber's intrinsic quality, the opportune timing of its entry into the market, and the cultivation of strong, reliable relationships with processors who undertake the transformative task of converting raw fleece into marketable finished products. Similarly, the production and sale of dairy products, such as artisanal cheese and fresh milk, demand a comprehensive understanding of effective food preservation techniques, efficient transportation logistics, and the evolving preferences of discerning customers. Furthermore, live animal sales entail a meticulous evaluation of breeding stock, an assessment of meat quality, and a profound comprehension of fluctuating market demand, which itself varies significantly both seasonally and regionally. Consequently, truly successful shepherds must possess an exhaustive grasp of all these disparate markets and strategically align their management practices to capitalize on their dynamic interplay. The mastery of weather monitoring and the concomitant capability for rapid, effective response represent utterly indispensable skills, often delineating the stark boundary between economic prosperity and catastrophic ruin. In the demanding realm of mountain shepherding, Aristomos has, through years of assiduous observation and inherited wisdom, cultivated an unparalleled ability to interpret the most subtle, often overlooked natural indicators that reliably presage shifts in atmospheric conditions. These include discerning patterns in the behavior of indigenous wild animals, recognizing the characteristic formations and hues of specific cloud types, and accurately assessing the direction and intensity of winds that transport vital moisture from distant maritime expanses. This profound meteorological acumen empowers him to swiftly guide his flock to secure locations well in advance of impending storms, to locate adequate shelter during periods of extreme climatic severity, and conversely, to judiciously exploit propitious conditions for critical activities such as the annual shearing or the crucial breeding season. The comprehensive training of nascent shepherds transcends the mere impartation of technical proficiencies. It fundamentally encompasses the meticulous installation of the profound attitudes and robust character traits that are absolutely requisite for navigating the rigors of mountain life. Virtues such as unwavering patience, resolute self-reliance, assiduous observation, and a deep-seated respect for the intricate balance of natural systems are not simply taught, but must be painstakingly cultivated and internalized through immersive practical experience and dedicated mentoring. Equally paramount are exceptional physical fitness, indomitable mental resilience, and the critical aptitude for making sound, judicious decisions even when confronted with intense pressure. Venerated master shepherds, exemplified by Aristomos, approach this formidable responsibility with utmost gravity. Acutely aware that the invaluable traditions and profound knowledge they transmit will serve as the foundational determinant for the enduring success and perpetuation of all subsequent generations of pastoralists. The judicious practice of conservation and the sustainable utilization of precious mountain pastures necessitate a sophisticated comprehension of ecological principles, insights that contemporary environmentalists are, in many respects, only now commencing to fully grasp and value. Through an unbroken lineage of centuries of practical experience, shepherds have assiduously acquired an unparalleled expertise in judiciously managing grazing pressure, effectively mitigating soil erosion, meticulously preserving the rich biodiversity of plant life, and harmoniously collaborating with natural succession processes to ensure the enduring productivity of their pastures across innumerable generations. Their time-honored practices encompass carefully controlled burning regimes, the strategic and precise timing of grazing cycles, and the diligent protection of particularly sensitive ecological zones during vulnerable periods, such as prolonged droughts or bouts of extreme, inclement weather. The philosophical dimensions of shepherding encompass a profound contemplation of humanity's intricate relationship with the natural world, a deep reflection on the inherent meaning of stewardship, and an earnest consideration of the ethical values that ought to guide human interaction with all other living beings. The profound solitude and the breathtaking, untamed beauty of high-altitude mountain environments inherently offer unparalleled opportunities for introspection and deep thought, a luxury rarely afforded in more densely populated or urbanized areas. It is within these majestic, isolated landscapes that many shepherds invariably cultivate a profound appreciation for the exquisite complexity and delicate interdependence of natural ecosystems, simultaneously fostering a humbling awareness of humanity's true, often modest, place within the grand, intricate tapestry of life. This constant engagement with raw nature often leads to a reevaluation of priorities, emphasizing harmony and respect over dominance. As the golden hues of evening begin to paint the sky, and Aristomos meticulously guides his precious flock toward a sheltered, verdant meadow where they are destined to spend the night, he is enveloped by a deep sense of contentment. This profound satisfaction arises from another day of successful and conscientious stewardship within one of the planet's most aesthetically magnificent yet inherently challenging environments. The sheep, with an innate understanding of their daily rhythm, gracefully settle into their evening routine, leisurely grazing on the rich pasture, engaging in their subtle social interactions, and gradually preparing themselves for a well-deserved rest. Concurrently, their vigilant shepherd meticulously sets up his simple, functional camp, bracing himself for a night of watchful, light sleep under a celestial dome where the myriad stars pierce the clear mountain air with an unparalleled brilliance and clarity. His unwavering patience and expert tender care for these animals not only play a crucial role in sustaining the vibrant communities nestled in the valleys below, but also serve to perpetuate ancient, time-honored traditions. These traditions organically connect him to an unbroken lineage of shepherds who, for countless generations, have discovered profound meaning and unwavering purpose in this demanding yet immensely rewarding way of life. The gentle, soothing sounds of the settling sheep, the faint, ethereal calls of distant nightbirds, and the soft, rhythmic whisper of the wind rustling through the towering trees collectively weave an age-old lullaby. This natural symphony has resonated through these very mountains for thousands of years, carrying with it an inherent sense of peace and the timeless, enduring rhythms that are born from a life lived in profound and genuine harmony with the natural world. The task of rendering a given text into an elaborate and enriched paraphrase, while strictly adhering to parameters such as maintaining original length, structural integrity, and the very essence of the narrative, necessitates a source text of sufficient substance and coherence. When presented with the solitary and incomplete fragment tireless, the intricate process of linguistic transformation and conceptual expansion becomes inherently unachievable. To expand upon thoughts, to weave in descriptive details and illustrative examples, or to employ a diverse palette of grammatical structures and expressive vocabulary, one must first possess a complete idea or a fully formed sentence from which to draw inspiration and meaning. The directive to preserve paragraphing, sequence of ideas, and factual consistency, alongside the imperative to maintain a journalistic narrative style and a consistent third-person perspective, all hinge upon the presence of a discernible original message. A single truncated syllable offers no narrative to preserve, no ideas to sequence, and no factual information to uphold. Consequently, the comprehensive guidelines set forth for this paraphrasing exercise, which demand a meticulous and expansive reinterpretation, cannot be applied to such a minimal and ambiguous input. A robust and meaningful paraphrase, therefore, remains contingent upon the provision of a complete and intelligible textual passage.